Goodness gracious. Don't tell me I did all that with no audio. Oh man, this is so bad. No. 13 minutes, guys. 13 minutes. I wasted everybody's time for 13 minutes. Man, I'm going to have to put an edit on the title. Can I edit the title live? Darn. Can you believe it? Can you believe I screwed up? Guys, I just went on a rant about diet. I'm not going to do through it again. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I screwed it up. People paid super chats to tell me. Oh my God, I'm the worst podcast host in the history. Coach, you have been on mute for the entire time. Oh no, Coach, no audio. Guys, thank you. Rudra, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you very much. I can't believe. From now on, I got to keep my eyes on the chat room. Okay, guys, throw me another question here. I can't believe I just went on a whole rant on diet, and it was pretty good stuff, man. I wish I had that audio. I can't believe it. Goodness gracious. A good 10 minutes plus. Ooh, the worst podcast, technical. Back to white belt and button pushing, guys. Back to white belt. All right, guys, give me another question and I'll fire off away. Button pushing skills. Back to white belt. Yes, that is correct. Water, Mr. Water, you're 100% correct. Nikki Ryan versus JT Torres. Let's see. I heard about that match. I haven't gotten to watch it. I keep telling myself I'm going to watch it. Let me see if it's on YouTube. We could watch it together. Nikki Ryan getting a big win versus JT Torres. Let's see. Is there any of it online? Oh, yes. Look at this. I think it's online. Oh, this is slow grappling. They're gonna flag me if I put their stuff on. Okay, let me just skip through. Let's see here. Give me a second, gentlemen. All right, there it is. Look at this. Look at this. I might earn my button pushing skills, my blue belt back today. Look at this, guys. It should be popping up on your. Oh, nope, wrong one. Okay, we're back to it. All right, let's see here. Okay, guys, this is JT Torres. I fast forward a little bit of the match. I don't think we could watch all of it because it will probably get flagged. This is a weird position here. Some kind of weird scramble they got into. Guys, I did not watch this match. I've been meaning to watch this match. I keep telling myself every day I'm going to make time to watch it. I'm going to fast forward it a little bit. Let's put an overdrive speed here. Okay, this is I heard JT went into crossashi like a saddle. Oh, look at this. Look at oh, beautiful. Look how Nikki Ryan is countering the saddle. That's beautiful. He's crossed his feet on JT's left leg, his far leg, so he cannot lean back and leg lock easily. This is actually a really smart control here. Let's see what happens here. See, JT went into Nikki Ryan's wheelhouse. This is really, really dangerous, you know. Oh, here it is. I already footlocked him. This has got to be it. Straight footlock? No way. Straight footlock. Guys, JT Torres hasn't been subbed in, I think, over 10 years. Wow, don't tell me he's going to sub him like this from here. That's crazy. Oh, yes. Straight footlock. Look at that. What an incredible finish. Congratulations to Nikki Ryan. A really sweet soul. Really, really happy for him. That's incredible. I don't think JT should have went into Nikki Ryan's wheelhouse, guys. Nikki Ryan has been doing leg locks since he could walk. They gave him a baby bottle and leg lock instructional. Very dangerous place to go. Coach, why did you show us your water jar? Marcus Rowe. I was just talking about how I intermittent fast. That's my dinner. So I was talking about how I eat breakfast, lunch, maybe a snack, but I stop eating at 6. That's what I was talking about. This is my dinner, you know. So I enjoy eating 2 meals a day, not more than 2 meals. I rarely eat 3 meals in a day. I usually eat 1 or 2. I don't like to eat 3 meals in a day. I feel it's too much for my digestive system. It's really too much time and energy getting ready to eat 3 times a day. It's crazy. I find I'm too busy for that, you know. And when I have like a family dinner or a special event, I don't eat the whole day. I talk about I wrote a book on intermittent fasting for athletes. I talk about how if you're going to work out in the AM and then you're going to have a special family dinner, because I always tell people, like, if you're going to have a special family dinner, or if there's a wedding, or if there's a birthday, and you're going to have a cheat meal, you're going to indulge. That's the thing, we always have these special events that people want us to break our diet for. Well, guess what? I don't eat. I stopped eating yesterday at 6 p.m. So by the time I get to dinner, I'm starving, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat a nice meal, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm not going to gain any weight. I'm not going to destroy my diet. I'm not going to, undo all the work I did in the gym, and I'm going to enjoy my diet. However, if I have a workout between my special meal and, like a let's say it's a wedding, or, you have a special event, I do carb up and I do my workout. So I carb up, workout, and then keep fasting. And I call it erasing a pre-workout carb load, a pre-workout meal. You can erase it. Okay, so I eat, let's say I estimate my workout's going to be 300 to 500 calories, 700 calories. I eat about that much in carbs. I go to the gym. I kill it. I feel good. I have the energy. I feel like I've erased that meal. And then I'll go and have my single meal. And I do that usually on the weekends. Why? Because on the weekends, I have the wife. I sit down. I order food, or I make food. We have a nice meal together. We enjoy it guilt-free. Why? I haven't eaten since yesterday. I feel totally fine, and I feel totally satisfied with my meal. Okay, guys, we got a bunch of super chats. Don't forget, I'm always doing super chats and not super chats. Sabah al khair. We can hear you drink before the camera turned on. Just sum up what you were saying. We love you. You didn't do normal audio check. That's from Rumblem. Yes, it's very true. I was just talking about my experience with the carnivore diet. I had the carnivore MD on this channel. I did the whole podcast with him to keep an open mind and open spirit. I tried his diet, okay? Not that I was ever carnivore. I was just doing it because, he's my guest and I wanted to honor him and I wanted to try his method. Mixing fruit with meat, I thought wasn't a good idea. Here's why. Fructose is stored in the liver. When you eat fruit, there's a lot of fructose and there is glycogen, okay? You can store it in the muscle. However, the fructose is stored in your liver. You can only store about 70 grams of fructose in your liver. After that, it's stored as fat. Now, in your muscle, you can store up to 700 grams in an athlete, 500 grams in an average person. So if you're an athlete, you can store up to 700, even 800 grams in an average sized advanced athlete. That's a lot more wiggle room. So if I eat too much fruit, it gets stored as fat. If I eat potatoes or grains or oatmeal, I can eat a lot more without storing it as fat. So I switched from fruit and meat to grains and meat, and I lost weight. When I was doing fruit, as per the recommendation of Carnivore MD, which also, by the way, Paul Saldino does not go by Carnivore MD anymore. I believe he's changed his diet recently. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what he's done, but I know he no longer goes by Carnivore MD. I was just doing it as an experiment, but one thing that I took that was really good from carnivore diet is that I put on muscle. And it is true. I do see the difference now between the viability of proteins from meat and proteins from plants. I didn't need to kill myself, because the thing is, when you get plant protein, it takes a lot. It's a lot of food, and you got to stuff it down, and it's so fibrous. It gives you a lot of gas. I much preferred getting my protein from meat. It's tastier. It's delicious. I enjoy it. And it doesn't give you the gas. It doesn't give you the upset stomach. Plant protein can be very difficult to digest. I know there's a lot to be said about this. I'm not going to get into a whole rant about it again because I went through it earlier. And too bad it was only me who heard it. But long story short, the good thing was that I got more muscular. The bad thing is that fruit put inches on my waist. I moved to grains and I lost some inches on my waist. I like to keep my waist at 32 inch. On the fruit diet, like unlimited fruit, I went up to 34.5, which is crazy to me, And he was telling me, I can eat as much fruit as I want. So that's what I did. I would carb up in the morning with dates. And guess what, man? Dates make you fat. There's sucrose, there's fructose and sucralose. Sucrose. The fructose, if I remember correctly, you can only store 70 grams of it in your liver, if I remember correctly. The rest turns to fat. So you can't have too much fructose, guys. You cannot have too much fructose. It's better to eat grains. Okay, guys, Cain Velasquez wanted to unalive the person who touched his daughter. What would you do, coach? ? One of my friends experienced the same and wants to hurt that person for doing that, but he's untouchable. That's from Abdullah. I really appreciate that you used the word unalive, so YouTube doesn't flag us. Guys, I would have done worse. I hate to say it, okay? I'm not any better than Cain Velasquez. I don't blame or fault Cain Velasquez. I would have done worse. I would have lost my mind probably. And I can't say that I have better self-control than Cain Velasquez. And I hope that this person is brought to justice. And in my opinion, if the case is if it's true that this person violated his child, I believe it should be capital punishment. If you ask me, that would be my vote in the hat. Punish him. Capital punishment. Maybe even capital punishment is too nice. Maybe we lash him a few thousand times and then execute him. Just make everybody know out there it's not okay to harm children. That's the message I would send loud and clear. But that's me, guys. Maybe I'm a little crazy. Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards is confirmed for 304 main event. That's from Hassan Haytham. I'm excited about that fight. I'm going to go through all their footage and I'm going to give you guys a total breakdown on that fight. But for now, I'm going to reserve my pick. That's going to be a great fight. I'm super excited. I'm very happy to see this matchup happen. The hardcore fans, you want to see this one. Coach, have you trained with Joe Valtellini? That's from Hassan. No, I haven't. I haven't had the pleasure, but I'm a big fan of his. I follow his YouTube channel. I've watched his fights. I'm a very big fan. I hope one day, if I'm in Toronto, I'll go pass by and we'll work out together. I'm sure it would be a lot of fun and a great learning experience. He's a phenomenal kickboxer, and I definitely would love to work with him one day. Hey, Coach, tell us how would you beat GSP since he's retired now? ? That's from NRL. Guys, ask me that same question in 10 years from now, and I'll answer it. I promise to answer, but now I cannot. Coach, which comment sections are you reading from? Coach, which comment section are you reading from? From the live chat. How is GSP so lean on animal-based then? ? That's from Adam Rogers. Guys, I'll tell you something about George. George is either lean or very lean, okay? He doesn't put on weight. He can go and eat burgers for a week, a month. He doesn't put on weight. He gets a little bit bigger. He gets a little less ripped, but he's very biologically gifted in that sense. He does it. Since he was young, okay? I've seen pictures of him as a kid. He was lean, very lean. He's very, very lean naturally, okay? Now, about 10 to 50% of the population is like that. Okay, they're ectomorph. Now, we all have a friend. We all know somebody who have a friend who eats whatever they want, never gains a pound, never has a belly, never has to struggle with weight. They actually have trouble keeping weight on. We all have a friend like that. Okay, now not everybody processes carbs the same way. George is one of those people. So I wouldn't tell you George has struggled with this. He doesn't know the struggles of putting on weight and having to lose weight and having stubborn pounds to lose. He doesn't know that struggle. For him, he goes by how he feels and how muscular he gets. He really likes to, maintain muscle, right? He doesn't want to get older and lose his muscle. He works hard for that muscle. So for him, carnivore makes sense. And believe me, George will carb up. He's not crazy. He's not a lunatic. He will carb up. He'll eat foods, but he'll lower his calories from other foods and up his meats. And then he'll consider himself carnivore. You know what I mean? He's not going to beat himself over the head with doing a precise calculation, but he'll, enjoy steak at night. He loves steak. He's a fan of steak. So for him, it's a fun diet to be on. And maybe he'll have carbs a little bit less. For him, that's going to be carnivore, but George doesn't have that struggle with being fat. He's never been fat. Like, I can gain 10 pounds of fat. Like, if I don't diet properly, if I don't exercise properly, I will gain weight. Absolutely. Look up Harry's. It's great. Let me look up Harry's. What is Harry's? You've piqued my interest. Harry's jarish, boko boko, or harisha is a dish of boiled, cracked, or coarsely ground cracked wheat, or bulgur, Mixed with meat and seasoned. Its consistency varies between porridge and gruel. Listen, that sounds good, actually. But I've never had it. I'll definitely give it a try. Where can I find some good hadith? Salam, Coach. What do you think about Billy Carson's theories on the Book of Enoch? That's from Review Fanatic 2. All right, let's look that up. You crazy guys. Billy Carson. Now, the Book of Enoch, from what I remember, is a book that was removed from the canon of the Bible. Billy, what do we say it was? No, hold on a second. Was it Billy Carson? Let me look that up. Could I forget such a thing? Billy Carson's. Okay, Billy Carson. Billy Carson. Oh, look at that. His name came up. Billy Carson's Book of Enoch. Let's see what crazy theories you guys have me looking at today. Oh, look at this. Could the Book of Enoch be an alien invasion by Billy Carson? You crazy guys. I love this stuff. Okay, I'm going to check that out later. I put it down. I will cross-examine him. I won't do it now live necessarily unless you guys ask me to. But I'm worried about getting flagged. I will look that up. It's interesting. Look, I believe, if I remember correctly, the Book of Enoch was in the canon of the Bible at one point, or it's quoted. Because the thing is, the Bible quotes scripture that's not found in the Bible. And it's quoted as scripture. So some people are like, hey, the canon must have changed over time. Now, the canon is a whole other can of worms. Experts study this. I'm not an expert in canon, but that's also a very massive topic in Christianity. Massive topic. And I have to do a little research on that to figure out what exactly that is. Hey, Coach Faraz, how effective is Sanda, Chinese kickboxing / wrestling, in MMA world ? Have you seen trained with any fighters with Sanda background? They're very good. Sanda's great. Okay, Sanda's like kickboxing mixed with wrestling. It's a dream of a style. I mean, it's amazing. You're throwing guys, you're kickboxing. It's a crazy sport. Absolutely love it. Who is the greatest Sanda fighter to ever compete in MMA? I would have to say it's Kung Lee. Kung Lee, he was Strikeforce champion. He did well in UFC. Remember, he was beating Vanderlei Silva, former world champion in Pride, and then he got KO'd at the end. I can't remember. I was there that night when they fought, but I remember he was doing very, very well, and I can't remember how the fight ended, but I think he got clipped, but he was like, I think like winning 85% of the fight. I would have to say, if you're into Sanda, check out Kung Lee. He's obviously retired. He hasn't fought in a long time. However, when he was competing, he was actually very, very special. Adam Bro says, Salam, Coach. I followed your shadow boxing routine since 1 year. Since I can't pay for gym, I think I have a 0.5% chance to win a sparring with you once I can afford to train in TriStar Gym. That's from Adam Bro. Well, Adam, maybe 0.5 is a little high, but listen, come to class, do the training, do the touch sparring classes. We have touch sparring classes, we have heavy pro sparring classes, we have every level, and start somewhere. 0.5 is somewhere to start, but it will quickly build, I'm sure. Coach, how to deal with hoflation? What is hoflation? I need explanation. What do you mean by hoflation? Is that like inflation, but as in women? Actually, you know what's really interesting? Man, this is so funny. I was just talking to my students about this today. That you bring up hoflation, you just triggered. I was talking to my students about this today. There's a woman by the name of Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern was this white nationalist, anti-feminist, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Caucasian girl who was quite famous on the internet for railing against feminism and talking about how women need to go back to being traditional and how America needs to go back to its values and how we have to appreciate white people. Okay. Now, I love white people. Okay. So I married a white people. My family's white. Half my family's white. Okay. We're Arabs, we're whites, we're blacks. In my family, we're everything. Okay. So we have no, we don't have racism. In Islam, we don't have racism. There is racism in the Arab world, unfortunately, but by and large, Muslim people, we have very like, we kicked racism a long time ago. Okay, long time. We kicked it a long time ago. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in our world, but it's really like stomped on. Like we're very anti-racist. 99.9% of us. Okay, now some slivers of our community will give us a bad name. They're still racist. They're still thinking in the time of Jahiliyyah, the time of ignorance, because we say racism was for the time of ignorance. We kicked that habit a long time ago. So never take any of my comments as racism. Okay, now she was a white nationalist, not a white supremacist per se, meaning that the whites are greater, but white nationalist meaning, from what I understand, that let's preserve the white race. So I remember, her videos used to pop up everywhere because she always used to rail on Islam. She hates Islam. She hates everything that's not Western, or she really rails against it. And it's all about like, she has Christian values and the West and America and free thinking and, the whole liberal, not liberal. No, I shouldn't call her a liberal. The whole like white Christian nationalistic faith. Now, I would have loved to talk to her about Jesus, because Jesus obviously wasn't a white national. I think she mixes in a little Christianity with, a little bit of white politics, let's say. Okay, now, I'm not an expert on her views, but that's kind of what I understood. So she says one day, she's like, I'm quitting this YouTube thing. I'm going to get married. I'm going to settle down, and I'm going to do the whole traditional wife thing. Why did she do this? Because she was always being questioned, like you kept saying feminism is bad, but here you are, you're this boss babe, you're in charge, you're running a YouTube empire, you have this channel, you're talking, you're the head of the family, where in the Bible, it's like the woman's supposed to ask her man. When she has a question, she's supposed to ask her man, okay? So she's like, people are right. I have to go and become a traditional wife. I have to go and, like submit to a man and have a man be in charge and just like have my man be the boss. So she disappeared. She disappeared for a few years. And now she's reemerged. And she reemerged by doing a tell-all. And I read the article, actually. The article is quite, it's quite something, I should say. First of all, she's like, she hated it. She hated her experience. She claims she lives right now in like a little shack. She's lost everything. She has to rebuild. She's going to rebuild her life. But right now, the guy doesn't even want anything to do with the child. She got married. She had a child. The guy treated her worse than a slave. She says she was in the worst position. She went from having a really nice life where men are pursuing her, and he was like the man that she met, that she eventually married, was pursuing her. He respected her. As soon as she gave up her career, it's like he looked down on her. She claims that he made her do all the chores, made her do all the cleaning. He was subjugating her, and also at the same time he was complaining about her, telling her that she doesn't contribute financially. So she's saying, like, on one hand, he didn't want me to work. I had to wake up early, make his breakfast, get his day ready, and do all this and that for him. She was like working for him 24/7. That's how she made it sound. And also he assumed that she would bring in money somehow. I don't know how he would expect that, but somehow, some way, she was supposed to be earning money at the same time, paying the bills. Now, she says it was a total nightmare. She says in the article that now she was living with her husband in Australia, she says. Okay, she claims they're living in Australia, and there was a death in her family. She claims there was 2 people who died in her family. Her husband agreed to let her come back to Canada to come to the funeral, to give her condolences, and then she can come back. Supposedly, according to the article, when she left, her husband said, "You know what? You left. Too bad for you. I'm done with you. I'm divorcing you." So she was like left hanging high and dry, she says. And she didn't have much money. She didn't have anything. So she ended up, she's saying, in a shack. Like, this guy really put a number on her. Now, you have to understand, this young woman was telling the world, you got to stop feminism. You got to stop all this women's rights stuff. Women, I think she even said women shouldn't vote, I believe. And she was like, women have to go back to being domestic. Just be in the home. Be a good mom. Be a good wife. And civilization will be great. We'll have a nuclear family again, and fantastic. But when she tried to run the experiment, it blew up in her face. Pow! And now she's here telling everybody, look, I was like young and dumb and I didn't know anything about the world, and I just realized that I was totally wrong. And here's the other crazy part. The guy she married was not white. He wasn't white. From what I understand, he is not white. Because I was interested to see, well, who did she marry? Looks like she didn't marry a white guy. But she's Miss White National. She's like the one woman who's like the white race, the white race, the white race, the white. Which to me, race doesn't mean anything. For me, if you're white, black, brown, green, I don't care. I have no care. Okay, if my kids marry any race, I don't care. Whoever they choose, that's fine with me. But she was hammering, white nationalism. And guess what? She married a non-white guy. She got traditional. And now she broke. And it's only been a few years. I think she was married for like 3 years. I forget now the exact number. Which I find it kind of crazy. But here's the thing. Here's what Lauren Southern doesn't understand. Because she's not wrong. She wasn't totally wrong. Like, I lived the life she's talking about. I'm a man. My wife lives the life she's saying that she should live. I have a nuclear family. I have 3 kids. I have replacement numbers. I expect my children to do the same, to marry a good woman, to marry a good man, and have kids, and keep the nuclear family healthy and strong. What was her fatal flaw? She doesn't realize it. She has no idea what it was. She has no idea. What she did was she gave all her power to some man, and the guy crushed her. What's wrong in this formula? I thought that's what you're supposed to do, she's saying. She's completely, utterly wrong. Let me tell you guys a little secret, okay? The only thing that can protect Lauren Southern from a man is other men. That's what she doesn't understand. Men are the protectors of women. Point blank. I dare anybody to dispute this. I dare anybody to try to dispute me on this. You're going to be proven wrong. When I marry my daughter off one day, and her husband doesn't treat her well, guess what's going to happen? Big Bubba, that's Big Bubba's me. Big Bubba's going to drop the hammer on his head. Like, I'm going to put him in his place. First of all, I'm going to vet the guy. I'm going to get to know the guy. I'm going to have leverage over the guy. I'm going to have, because us, we do a dowry. Like, you can't just take my daughter, get her pregnant, then chuck her away. No, hell no. It doesn't work like that. What she doesn't understand is, when a woman gets married traditionally, I just saw a viral video actually that makes my point even better than I can make it. It was about a father. It was a viral video. It was actually a cute little moment. It was a father handing his daughter over at a wedding. She's dressed in white. He's taking hands with the husband, and he's making the husband promise. This is a Christian wedding, I believe. Promise that he's going to take care of her. He's going to watch over. The father is handing over the daughter to this man. And the man and the father are taking an oath to one another. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty normal. Like, it went viral. Look how they did it. People are complaining. Some people are thinking, oh, it's misogynistic. Some people are saying, oh, it's beautiful. You know how you get everybody's opinion. That's exactly how I got married. When I got married, I took my wife's father's hand. We took an oath. I didn't marry my wife. I married my wife through her father. We sat in a chair. We looked at each other in the eye. We took our hands and we repeated words back to one another that the sheikh was telling us to say. Like, okay, we promise like this. We promise to live by this way. We're going to live by the Quran. The Quran is going to judge between us. We're going to we have our rights on one another. And I took an oath to make sure that this man's daughter is taken care of, protected, well treated. That's what Lauren Southern is missing. She's missing an older brother. She's missing what we call a wali, a protector. Somebody who's male and is her protector. This guy, guys, let me tell you a little secret about the world. Men are the worst. Men are dogs. Men are wild wolves. You can't give men all the power. Oh yeah, here's this beautiful blue-eyed, doughy-eyed, cute little thing here. She's a little candy. Yeah, here, take her. Use her, abuse her, give her a kid. Now she has a child. She's lost her best years, perhaps. Some people think it's the best years or her prime years, let's say. And now she has an ex-husband to deal with, and she has a kid. Some people call that baggage. I don't, but some people think it's baggage. And it's like you kind of put her in a difficult situation. And now she's literally living in this poor like shack. She says it's a shack. In the article, she talks about where she's living right now, she's the only one with a washing machine. And that the neighbors come to use her washing machine, she claims. And I find that a little crazy, hard to believe, but okay. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. She says it was better than the life she had before because at least she has community now. People are talking to her, whereas before she was like married to this guy. She has no friends, nobody, no network, no social norms. She's just like this guy's slave. I wish I could like have a conversation with Lauren. Really, I wish I could. I could tell her that's insane. That's an insane way to get married. Could you imagine? Because the presupposition is that guy is going to abuse my child, my daughter, my child. And I have to make sure he doesn't. How do I make sure he doesn't? Well, I got to get to know him. I got to know his family. I got to talk to his father. I got to get to know, hey, is your son, is he straight? Does he have problems? We have meals together. We get to know each other. Before I hand my daughter over to the guy, I do a background check. I get to know the guy inside and out. Then when I learn to trust the guy, we built a rapport and the dowry is right. Okay, we can make a deal. That my daughter, she's not being taken by some lunatic. Because here's the thing, guys, all due respect. Generally speaking, the man, like 99% of abuse is man on to women and man on man. It's always the man. The perpetrator is the man. The perpetrator is always the man, either sexually or violently, vast majority of the time. I'm more scared of men than anything. I'm more scared from man than wolves. That's my crazy take on it, guys. Give me your comments and questions. I'm sure we're going to have a back and forth here. But the Lauren Southern experiment went completely wrong. And I hope now she doesn't go full like feminist and like, the family thing is crazy. It's not doable. I hope she doesn't do that because it's the most important thing. In this world, that's the most important thing. Coach, I have strong and stable knees. PT said you have knee tendon inflammation causing pain. If I bend it or walk, should I do your program or PT electric laser therapy? That's from Bin 3 Scar. Okay, Bin 3, you're saying you have strong and stable knees and that your PT says you have a tendon inflammation causing pain when I bend it and when I walk. Okay, here's what I would tell you, okay? In Strong and Stable Knees, there's a podcast section where I give you everything about how to deal with your knees. And I'm going to share one of the gems in there with you. Because Strong and Stable Knees, guys, make sure to use promo code level 50 off. Guys, it's on the bottom of your screen. Use promo code. Get anything you want off jujiclub.com. 50% off. Okay, guys? Don't forget, when you're training, what are the most important elements I talk about in Strong and Stable Knees? Because I have the exercise version, the portion. Then I have the podcast portion where I tell you guys, listen to it when you're commuting, listen to it when you're going to bed. Like, just listen to this. It's about an hour long, and I give you all these very important things. One of those important things is called the pain rule. Guys, the pain rule is super important. Imagine 10 is blistering pain, and 1 is a little tap on the shoulder. I never exercise past the pain higher than a 7. If the pain is more than a 7, I stop. I'm not training. I'm not doing any knee exercise. If your pain is a 5 or a 4 or a 3, yes, start doing Strong and Stable Knees program. Choose one of the exercises. If the pain starts to go to a 7, stop. Now, I also mentioned there's a nuance to this rule. If I'm doing, let's say I'm doing the lunge matrix and my pain is at a 6, and then when I stop my set, the pain subsides, it goes down to a 3 or a 4, I'll do another set. However, if my pain is at a 6 when I'm doing the lunge matrix, and then it goes to a 6.57, I stopped. After I stop my set, if the pain is rising, stop. Don't exercise anymore. There's too much inflammation. You're not ready yet. You can possibly try another exercise, but no exercise should make me feel a 7 or more. I want to work with a margin of safety. I talk about margin of safety. The maximum pain you should allow is a 6.5. If the pain subsides after a set and you're at a 6.5, do another set. Keep doing sets till you hit about a 7, stop. Never work at a 7 or more, never. You're doing more harm than good. You need to find another exercise or call it a day. Do upper body, do neck, do shoulders. Never break the pain rule. If anything hurts more than a 7, stop. You're doing more damage than good. Respect the pain rule, and you'll train for many years. Coach, guys, very important, the pain rule. I explained it there clearly. I think it's quite clear. There's a lot of other gems in strong and stable knees. Make sure you guys pick it up. In MMA 15, you said you do neck bridges and wrestlers have strong necks, but in strong and stable neck, you don't include neck bridges. Why not? That's from Hassan Haytham. You're right. I do include a headstand. Okay, so headstand, I don't do neck bridges. I stopped doing neck bridges. I've evolved since, I got to give it to Hassan Haytham, a true gentleman and scholar. He's referring back to AMA 15. Now, guys, I've grown a lot. I've learned a lot since AMA 15, and I've come to realize that putting your neck under weight and then moving it did more harm than good in the long, long run. Okay, so when I was younger, I used to do neck bridges because I saw the wrestlers doing neck bridges and they had crazy necks. But I also realized I was putting miles on my neck. So I do isometric holds, I do band pulls, and I only move about a 1/4 inch underweight. And I love headstand. Headstand is the best, in my opinion. Headstand and band pulls for your neck is among the best exercises you can do. I have a very strong and I have a very stable neck. I have a very good neck. And when I find when I'm on top of people and I'm passing, I'm always standing on my head because I do so much headstanding. I find it's like a crazy new way to pass the guard because I use my head so much more because I have so much stability in my head because I do a lot of headstand. Now, I wouldn't tell you it's wrong to do any neck bridging. However, I think those guys, when they're older, usually their neck is a mess. Okay, so that's just my opinion. I don't want to, after working with Kelly Starrett, I learned the value of not putting your spine under load and then flexing your spine. Okay. So Kelly Starrett, I met him after AMA 15. He was telling me, look, putting your spine under load and then flexing the spine back and forth, you're minimizing you're increasing the surface area. You're minimizing the surface area. Therefore, you're increasing the pressure per square millimeter. Okay, so you're breaking down your vertebrae. That's why I stopped putting my neck under load and then flexing my spine. I started using the one hinge rule. I talk about it in the videos. Every video has it. And of course, after working with Stuart McGill, he told me also, look, you can put your spine under load, but don't do too much flexion. You have to keep it to a minimum. So I started following those rules. Those guys heavily influenced me, and I think it was for the better. Coach, did you get a chance to look into Muhammad Shahrur view on the Quran? Shahrur. Let me look him up. Did I? I don't think I did. It doesn't ring a bell. Shahrur. Let me do a quick little search here. Oh, look at that. I must have misspelled it. Give me 1 second here. How does Shahrur? Shahrur. Oh, I misspelled it by 1 letter. Look at that. Shahrur Muhammad. No, doesn't ring a bell. Okay, I will look him up, my friends, and hopefully we'll have more info in the future. You should do a convo with Rudy Rockman. Look him up. Let me see here. Rudy Rockman. Oh yeah, I know. I've heard him talk. It's a whole Palestine-Israel debate. Yeah, I would talk to him. I would have a discussion. Look, I talk about Palestine and Israel all the time. We can live together. Arabs and Jews can live together. We got to kick out the far right, ultra right wing governments on both sides. I believe Hamas was put in by Netanyahu. Actually, I don't believe it. I know it because Netanyahu brags about it. I think the Israeli government and Hamas government have to go the ultra right wing. If you're a true democracy, make it one vote, one person. They would never accept it because they don't really believe in democracy. A true democracy, the government doesn't choose the people choose the government, and that's the truth. What we need is emancipation. We need the Palestinians to not need Hamas resistance groups. Why? Give them all the freedoms, like we gave the black people freedoms, like we gave the Native Americans freedom. Not we, but not me, but the people who were controlling their lives. Gave them freedom. It's emancipation. It's not further subjugation. When the blacks rebelled against their slave masters, the whites tried to subjugate them further. They took away reading rights, congregation, no allowed to carry a gun, no drinking of alcohol, etc., etc. They started punishing them more severely. What happened? More rebellion. People rather die than live this way. How did we solve the problem between blacks and whites? We freed the slaves. We gave them full emancipation. People thought it was crazy that a black man can have a vote. Today we find that absurd, ridiculous, and barbaric not to give a black man a vote. Of course the black man should have a vote. Of course the Palestinians should have a vote. Of course we should live in peace together. If you truly believe in democracy, don't you dare talk about democracy if you're not going to give one person one vote. Don't you dare. You don't believe in democracy. You're using democracy as a tool to get what you want. That I can believe if you tell me that. At least be honest with me. Guys, let's be honest with each other. I'm honest with you guys. I always tell you guys the honest truth. I never lie. Don't be a liar. We can see through the lies, guys. We're not stupid. You know, like I feel sometimes people make arguments like, do you think we're really that dumb? Like, what an insult. Like, we can't even have a conversation. We can't have a conversation because you think that you can pass a lie. Like, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty dumb and sad. But I would have a discussion with him, yes. Someone asked in chat, what qualities do you look for in a woman? I'm also asking. Muslims believe Allah determines everything, but atheists believe determinism also. For them, who determines everything? ? True, red, crime. Brother, you asked me two questions there. Do you want to talk about determinism or women? Guys, I'm going to take a quick little poll. Let's take a quick little poll, okay? Whoops. I'm going to do a quick little poll. Start poll. Topic. And then I'm going to close off probably with one of these. Topic. Which topic would you rather? Let's see what you crazy kids like. All right, guys. I didn't double check my spelling. You guys, let me have it in the poll, and then I'm gonna keep firing away on super chats and non-super chats. Okay. You guys just click that poll, and I'm gonna try to bank these super chats. Guys, please, no more super chats. Okay, please. It's getting out of control here. And whoa! How many super chats is there? Coach, what is your height and weight? I'm like 5'9", and I weighed myself yesterday 175. Hope you enjoy the coffee on us. Shukran Yasir. You're a gentleman and scholar. Thank you so much. Hassan Haytham. Look up Harris. It's great. I will. I did. Okay. I did some of these. Beautiful. Coach, I'm 50-50 on flat earth. Ugh. I know you spoke on Rogan podcast about how gravity is woo-woo. Can you elaborate? ? I fully believe in God. Is it possible we are not a flying ball? Also, when will you do another pod with Sabur? That's from Tommy. Tommy, my boy, we don't live on a flat earth. We live on a round earth. There's many ways to prove it. I don't really want to get into it, but look, think about it like this, okay? When we look at the moon, there's a giant crater in the moon. It's very distinctive. When you look at it from Canada, it's on one side of the moon. When you go to Australia and you look at it, it's on the other side of the moon. That means you're upside down in Australia. But when you traveled in Australia, did you see any edges? No, you didn't see any edges. All you saw was smooth surface. If the world was flat, you would have to have crossed the edge to get upside down. You understand? Because when you look at it from Australia, you're seeing the moon upside down because the crater's on the other side. It's completely visible. It's completely 100% distinctive. That's just one of many ways to prove that we live on a spherical Earth. Guys, it's not that I believe gravity's woo-woo, okay? Is that all thinkers of British empiricism and Muslim thinkers in the Golden Age believed it was woo-woo, and I agree with them. It's not me. I didn't make this up, okay? This is a view called nominalism, which is we think that things are emergence. Even in the scientific community, agrees that there's something out there called emergence. They don't really know what to do with it because it's something you have to philosophize about. That's what philosophers do. I'm not the only one. I might have spilled the beans on Rogan because I thought Rogan had many philosophers before me. From what I understood, he has all sorts of intellectuals. So I thought he must have talked about this in the past. I was caught by surprise that he was so surprised by it. For me, I realized that for me, it's basic knowledge, like not basic knowledge, but it's something I'm very familiar with. And for the vast majority of people, they're not. It is true. I have not changed my position since. I've had dialogues with countless of people since, of people objecting to me, and I always ask them the same 3 questions, and nobody can answer the same 3 questions. They find out it's always, oh, you know what? I just did some research, and you know what? You're pretty right. Oh, I didn't know any of that. Well, guess what? You know, it's not that surprising. If I go tell a philosopher, if I go talk to a PhD, and I tell them, well, you know, it's all inference. It's never observed. Gravity's never observed. So, yeah, of course not. Gravity's not observed. It's a whole other animal when you're talking at that level. But I don't want to get too deep into it now because it's quite a topic. It's quite a long explanation. I have to start like creating building blocks. But please do me a favor, Tommy. Don't believe in the flat earth. It's not true. Don't be 50-50. We don't live on a flat earth. Coach, what's your pick for Fury versus Usyk? I haven't done my homework, but I was so disappointed in Fury's last performance against Ngannou. I don't feel he prepared. Maybe he's in a bad place in his career where he's not really taking things seriously. He's just showing up for paychecks. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, so don't take any of this with more than a grain of salt. I would tell you, Usyk, just looking in his eyes, and I know it doesn't mean anything, he looks hungry. All right, guys. Should you have a convo with Rudy Rockman? Listen, guys, set it up. Send him a message. Say, Coach Zahabi will have a conversation with you. I would definitely have a conversation with him. Let's see how the poll is doing. How to choose a woman, 56%. Oh, guys, come on. Are you serious? The Determinism would have been so much better. Okay, what can I say? Hoflation is killing you guys out there. I'm assuming hoflation is destroying you guys. Coach, what is your opinion on the Marmar Emmanuel stabbing in Australia? That's from Review Fanatic 2. I saw it, guys. If you guys don't know it, there's a preacher out there. His name is Marmar Emmanuel. And he preaches, and, you know, he talks about unity, love, and he's very charismatic. And he said some things I think that were crazy, you know, it's, like completely wrong. Like he says in the Quran, you know, it's like he's always like telling everybody there's no other religion. You know, he's always saying that Quran is wrong, Buddha is wrong, everybody's wrong. It's just Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I understand he's a preacher. Like, I get it. And I think you should be able to preach your religion. And I didn't find anything he said offensive. I don't find anything he said offensive. And the young man who went there and stabbed him, goodness gracious, I think he was completely wrong. He should be arrested. His parents, I personally think if a minor does something like that, the parents should be held responsible as well. You're responsible for raising your child not to do anything violent. I believe that. I believe the parents should be responsible for their children to a certain extent. He's a young kid, confused, doesn't know what he's doing. He thankfully didn't kill the preacher. It was horrific. Like, I can't believe what got into it. Look, guys, we're allowed to criticize one another. I'm okay with people criticizing me, my religion, but in a respectful manner. Yes. And if you insult us, I'm not going to be nice to you. Like, if you, like Mari, in my opinion, he was preaching in a way that is respectable. Okay, I have no problem. He doesn't believe in Muhammad. He doesn't believe in Quran. He doesn't believe in Buddha. He doesn't believe in Hinduism. I get it. I get it. He's wearing a cross. He's a priest. I already know that. He didn't have to open his mouth. I already knew that. But 2 weeks before, something he was giving a sermon. Somebody put a video and it went kind of viral. And he was like, you know what? I heard I'm going to be killed. And I don't want to live in this life anymore. I've had my fill of this life. If you kill me, I'd be happy. I'm going to be with Jesus. He was saying, I don't think people should talk like that either. Like, I get what he's saying. Like, believe me, Muslims, we talk about like the next life is better than this one. Yes, I agree. However, it doesn't mean you should instigate people to come and kill you. And it sounded like he was. He was like, oh, but people tell me I'm going to die soon. Well, guess what? I'd be happy. There's always a lunatic out there. To him, that's an invitation. I just don't think we should talk like that. Personally, I think it's wrong. It's inciting violence on yourself. I don't like it. Okay? Now, he did go on rants. And one rant he went on, he's like, in their own book, it says that Jesus is going to come and judge. In their own book. In their own book? Like, you're talking about the Quran. He was talking about the Quran. He said, in the Quran, it says Jesus is going to judge. And he's like, who judges other than God? So that means Jesus is God. Like, that's guys, I got to say, with all due respect, I don't want to like flex here, but I've trained, that's called a non sequitur. I've trained formally in logic. It's completely erroneous. And there's no such verse in the Quran. There's no such verse that says Jesus is going to come and judge in the Quran. It doesn't say that. Okay. On Judgment Day, the Quran talks about Judgment Day over and over again. God is going to judge. God is going to judge. You're going to be faced with God. So I don't know where he got Jesus is going to judge. It's explicit in the Quran. God is going to judge, not Jesus. A complete error on his part. And I find it to be quite comical that he makes such an error. Like, it's just, he's a very charismatic guy. I get why people are interested in him. But charisma doesn't replace logic and reason. And, we have charismatic guys in Islam, and sometimes they're not rational. I agree. But they should learn to be rational. You should be. The most dangerous thing is somebody who's religious and irrational. That's the most dangerous combination. So I would tell you, they should study logic. They should be rational. They should be enlightened. They should understand academia, not just religion. I just find that's just irresponsible. Gotta make it at home. Recipes on YouTube. Add olive oil and cinnamon on it, and just after putting it in a bowl. Trust it's simple and delicious. That's from Hassan. Yes, that's from that other dish you were talking to me about. Sounds great. Inshallah, I'll try it in the future. What do you look for in a partner? Does age matter? That's from Christopher Young. Yes, in my opinion, in my personal taste, age matters. I personally like to marry a woman younger than me. Now, I know a lot of you are going to go crazy on this. And I was once considering marrying an older woman. It was bothering me that she was older than me. And at the end, I just cut it off. And I was like, I'm not going to marry this one. And I look back now and I'm happy I did marry a younger girl, because especially with my lifestyle, I'm big into fitness and health. And, I'm 44, guys, but I feel like when I was 20, I feel very energetic. I feel very, like when I was 20, what's a 20-year-old man like? You guys fill in the blanks. So if my wife was older, it's not the same. Women don't have the same, how do you say, drives and energies as a man does. So if you marry younger, she can kind of like mirror you more. So for me, it's very important. For some men, might not be. Maybe an older woman's a better fit for you. Okay. All right, guys. I think we're cooking here. Let's see here. Someone in the chat asked, what kind of qualities do you look for in a woman? I'm also asking, Muslims believe Allah. Oh, yeah, okay. I did this one. That's the one. We're at 54% asking how to choose a woman. Wow. Coach, hi. I just want to thank you. You were the role model I needed in my early 20s to be a man. Now close to 30, I'm expecting my first son. That's from Barnon. Barnon, you just melted my heart, man. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you for that. I really highly appreciate you. And mashallah, may your son be blessed, inshallah. That's I'm very, very happy to hear that. Guys, I've always on this channel pushed you guys. Be a good man, be a real man, and have a family. Have a family. Now tell me now you have your son, you regret it. Nobody would ever have a son and say he regrets it, or a daughter. People tell me I don't want to have kids. I tell them, people without kids hate it when people with kids tell them, have your kids or else you're going to regret it. They say, oh, I hate it when I hear that. I don't want to have kids. I decided for myself I'm not going to have kids. The truth of the matter is, you want kids, you just don't know it. Don't miss out on the experience. Now, the reason a lot of you are missing out on the experience is because of what was written earlier in the chat. Not my words, the chat room words, is hoflation. Hoflation has destroyed your belief that it can happen. That's how I see it, guys. I'm looking at society and I'm saying, look, society is an old sick man. It's coughing. Society's coughing. Help me, I'm sick. What's causing this ailment? A lot of it is hoflation. Hoflation. The guys out there are like, I can't marry and have a child with this girl. This girl's so unstable. Tomorrow she's going to be on to another guy. That's the truth. That's why you don't want to have kids. That's what I'm personally concluding, by and large. I don't want to judge people individually here. I'm just saying, by and large, when I look at society and why do men not want to have kids, and especially like some of my students that are closer to my age and like they didn't get married, I realize why they didn't get married. I talk with them, and it's because they can't find the right girl. They can't find a girl that they trust. That's why when I answer your question, how to choose a woman, number one on the list, loyalty. A loyal woman. But I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But because now men, in my opinion, in the West here, we kind of let ourselves get duped. And other countries haven't. It's kind of like we were playing hockey and we took out the goalie. We took the goalie out of the net. And we said, guys, if we take out the goalie, it's going to be more fun, more goals. Well, guess what? Other teams are scoring goals on your net. And you can't score goals on theirs. Why? They have a goalie. Did you know that in Indonesia last year, they outlawed extramarital sex? It's a highly touristic area. Tourists can come, but you can't have sex with our women. They're so smart. Indonesians are so smart. In Qatar, when they had the World Cup, and I salute the Qataris, if you sleep with one of their women, it's 7 years in jail. Like, they're so top G. It's crazy. I have so much respect. I salute them. They're telling us, guys, these are our women. Don't mess with us. We are not going to let you guys run amok in our town and destroy our future prospects. Somebody's going to marry that girl. Somebody's going to have a relationship with that girl. You're coming in here just for the week for the soccer game and you're going to just party and leave. No. You're not going to come here to sow your wild oats. When rich men want to party, where do you think they go? They go to Canada, America, Latin America, Europe. Guys, I've traveled to Europe, man. It's crazy. Like, the women just like volunteer. They volunteer, guys. I'm sorry to say, and I have utmost respect for every culture. I just find it crazy how the women they're raising their hand. We'll do anything to be in the VIP section. We'll do anything. Absolutely anything. Like, it's a cultural thing. Guys, when I say culture, I mean the collective psyche. Everybody thinks that way. It's okay if a girl meets a guy in one day and she sleeps with him. It's okay. It's her prerogative. It's her thing. Freedom. Well, guess what, man? Guess what? I don't know if you guys know about the alarming birth rates. Like, the birth rates are really dropping incredibly fast. And that's in America as well. And what do? You end up importing old school guys. Because old school guys had kids. So they're like, oh, well, we need this. We need immigration. We have to have immigration. Let's get our immigration from all these guys who don't think like us because they had kids. Bring them here. Bring their youth. So then we immigrate to your countries. We immigrate to your countries because there's money here, because of colonialism. America broke the bank. America controls, so much of the world. They have over 100 military bases in the world. America makes sure that the gas prices stay low and that hamburgers are cheap. America does that, okay? Believe me. We'll talk about that another day. So we go where the money is. Economic incentive. You need our traditional thinking because that's who made the kids, but you don't think traditional. So then when we come here and we're like, hey guys, you know what? Let's pump the brakes on this craziness. Oh, you got to assimilate to us. Well, if you assimilate to you, okay, let's say we assimilate to you. Who are you going to call next to come and immigrate here? If your crazy thinking comes in our countries, who's going to come next when you're running out of people? Okay, don't forget, guys, in society, we have what we call a pyramid or an inverted pyramid. If there's too many old people, like in, let's say, South Korea, then the young people can't keep paying, because as you get older, you produce less and cost more because of your health. Your health is deteriorating. We want to take care of the old. We don't want them dying in the streets, so we cost a lot of money to keep them healthy. Now, they produce less. They don't work 8 hours a day anymore. They've retired. The youth have to work and pay their pensions and pay their medical bills, pay through taxes, etc. But then we say, look, when you're old, we'll take care of you. However, in many countries now, the youth it's not enough. So you got to import people with different mentalities, different beliefs, different ways of life. And you got to make rooms for those different ways of life. Why? You need them. You need them just as much as they want to come here. You need them to come. Canada this year said they're going to take 500,000 new immigrants. Why do you think that is? Record low birth rates. That's the only reason why. It's not because they're open-hearted and open-minded. And no. They need you to come here, work, get a job, and pay us those taxes, guys. We need the money. Don't ever let anybody lie to you. It's about the money. And all that is because the nuclear family. Why do you think they call it the nuclear families? Because it's the nucleus to society. It's a nucleus. Without it, we can't function. We collapse. Long story short, number one thing is loyalty. And it is incredibly scarce in our society. Look, in the ancient world, if a woman wasn't loyal, the punishment was severe. Now, I'm not saying we should do that. I'm not saying that. But the ancients were not going to be cucked. All our ancestors, guys, all of them, every single one of them. And nobody dare tell me, let he who has no sin cast the first stone. Let me tell you something about that verse. It's a later fabrication. That's in the book of John, okay, the last gospel. No scholar in the world believes that verse was original. No scholar in the world. Because if those of you who don't know, they used to stone women, right? And one day there's in the Gospel of John, one day a woman is taken in adultery. She's caught in adultery. And they bring her to Jesus. And now they ask Jesus, alayhi salam, what are you going to do with her? Then he takes a stick. He kind of like scribbles in the mud. Supposedly they're saying, in the narration of John. And then he says, okay, let the one who has no sin cast the first stone. Everybody's like, oh, I have sin. You have sin. Everybody's sin. We've all done bad things. She's done bad, but we've all done bad. So I can't be the first to cast the first stone. So everybody dropped their stones and walked away. And then Jesus tells her, your sins are, I believe he tells her, your sins are forgiven and sin no more. I don't know if he forgives her sins, but I think he does. I'm not remembering. That is not in any of the oldest manuscripts. That was added later, much later, like 300 years later. Now, I'm not saying we should stone. I don't think we need stoning anymore. We've passed that. Now, I think the principle should be that if you commit adultery, you should be punished. But what's the punishment? It has to reflect our modern day, our modern culture. That's a topic for another day. It has to make sense for our culture and our time. However, there was a reason why men would do such a thing. Let me tell you why. When men went to war in the past, it was voluntary. People don't know this about the ancient world. Most civilizations, when they went to war, the war was voluntary. Men were farmers, and then when there was no crops to pick, because farming is seasonal. Oh, we can go to war now. Okay, so who do you want to wage war on? That guy? Okay, let's go wage war on that guy. We have a beef with that guy. No problem. We'll come back for the crops, and we have this much time before the crops, so we can go to war for this much time. Now, when we go to war, not all men have to go to war. Like, there's a select few that don't have to go to war. And sometimes when you go to war, it takes a long time. You miss the crops. You have to come back years later. Sometimes campaigns can last a very long time. But wait a second. A lot of men didn't want to go to war. Why? Why didn't men want to go to war? Because they're like, hey, if we go to war, you guys are going to have all the women to yourselves. So laws were passed over time that were very harsh. No woman is going to enjoy herself while you're off on war. No. Look how harsh the penalty is. So men were like, oh man, nobody would risk that. Okay, I'll go to war for you. The government was protecting the assets of the men, or their interests, I should say. Now, it's crazy because you see so many viral videos of women cheating on their husbands who are out and deployed. Men are deployed, and then you have these women that get busted cheating, and like there's like people do undercover videos to like catch a woman who's cheating on her deployed husband, how disgusting she is, how vile, and people hate on those women. They just like rip them apart online, because how could you betray your husband? He's out there doing, fighting for our freedoms and all that. People, by and large, throughout history and the rest of the world, not in the West so much today, but they used to be disgusted or repulsed by women's disloyalty. Number one on the list, guys, is loyalty. And I think that's what's scarce and missing in our side of the planet. Women are just not as loyal. Neither are men. I blame men for all of it, guys. By the way, of feminism and all that, I blame it on men. I don't blame it on women. I totally blame everything on men. Our collective thinking, how we allowed ourselves to be groomed, to be submissive and passive to women, and just allow women to kind of like walk all over us, and we don't demand respect. We don't have any backbone, and women are actually disgusted of us. Here's another crazy little piece of information. After 9/11, there was a surge in book sales. You know what book sale started to surge? After 9/11. Think about this. It's this is hilarious because I was just talking about this earlier today. That's why it just popped in my memory. There was this famous book. It's called The Sheikh. It's about an Arab man who abducts a British woman who's on vacation sightseeing in the wilderness, in the desert, in the Arabian desert. She's sightseeing. She's a very rebellious woman. She doesn't want any man as a chaperone. She's super independent. She's super feminist. She's like, and this is like in the 1940s, not even 1930s, like really old school, like when a woman should be chaperoned. And she's like, no, to hell with that. I'm British. I'm white. I don't care. No man can control me. No man tells me what to do. She's got the whole feminist vibe, and she's like very, very rebellious. Okay. So she's sightseeing in the desert. She's doing her own thing. She's independent. She's got her own aristocratic life. She's got money. She comes from wealth, and she's got an attitude. Now she goes out in the wilderness, and this Arabic guy catches her, and he's a sheikh. Women's erotica, guys. What are you going to do? And of course, he has his way with her. He breaks her wild spirit. He's very dominant. He's a very controlling guy. And she's like in love with him. She ends up being madly in love with him. Now, some of you might call that sick and sadistic and completely insulting. Some of you might say that. I would agree with you. However, book sales don't lie. So this was a really popular book. But after 9/11, I'm asking you guys that question. I want you guys to tell me why. I'm seriously quite shocked. That book, because there's not a lot of Arab erotica, okay, not made for Westerners, surged again. All of a sudden, Western women were interested again in like Arabic guys who were dangerous and were gonna abduct us and like have their way with us. Now, as a philosopher, I gotta sit back and ask myself, why? And I would love for the chat to chime in here. XO, I'm definitely not, okay? Absolutely not. What I'm asking you is, why would a book... I'm going to put you in timeout for that, okay? I'm going to put you in a 5-minute timeout. Don't ever say that again, okay? I'm not pro grapes. Not at all. I think it's a capital punishment. Personally, you ask me, I'll put you in the guillotine if you do that. If you have 100% proof you did it, personally, I'll put you in the guillotine. My question is, why is it selling. Why? That's my question. I didn't say why should you do it or why should you not do it. That's obvious. You shouldn't do it because it's wrong. It's morally wrong. I'm asking you, why do book sales surge? That's my question to you. Women love dominant guys. Don't ever forget that, guys. That's from Water. I don't agree. I think it's more than that. I think it's more complex than that. Because you can go home and boss your wife around and treat her like dirt. She's going to leave you. I guarantee you your wife leaves you. Especially if she has the liberty to. And even in countries where you don't have the liberty to, they run away. Okay, like, I don't think it's not that simple. The woman is far more complex than that. She wants a nice guy, but he can't be too nice all the time. He can't have no backbone. I think women like a nice guy with a backbone. He's got a backbone. There's a limit he draws. There's a line he draws. But what I don't understand is they go into a full-on... They go into a fantasy of graping, which is crazy to me. They're buying a book and reading it, and they're getting aroused, obviously, because it's erotica, about a guy who abducts them, and he's of Arab descent. And that happened after 9/11, so now you're infatuated with Arab guys? Mike P said something really intelligent. Guys, I got to tell you, this guy's a gentleman and a scholar. Can I pin this? Look what this guy... This man has understood women. I am the student of Mike P. Mike P said it better than I'll ever say it. Mike says, women want danger they can tame. Mike P, are you a poet of some sort? For sure you're a top G, and for sure you're a gentleman and a scholar. But are you also a poet? I couldn't have put those words so eloquently. I think Mike P is right. Mike top G P is correct. Women want danger they can tame. I think that man just answered my question. Mike P, I want to thank you. Today you are the teacher. Thank you. That's actually... You just answered my question. I think that makes total sense. Women are aroused by dangerous men that they can tame. The danger is not going to be... You know, you just made me have an epiphany. You just made me have an epiphany. A woman wants maybe the most dangerous guy she can guide because it makes her powerful. He'll use that danger, his ability to cause danger, create danger. And if I can tame him, I can control that danger. That makes me powerful. Wow, Mike P. Guys. Mike P is a gentleman and a scholar. He just figured it all out, guys. He just cracked the code right here on this channel. That makes total sense. Even Schopenhauer wasn't that eloquent. You're right. They take the most dangerous guy that they can tame. Think about it. If you can tame that guy, you find the most dangerous that you can actually tame. Not the guy you can't tame, because then he'll just run amok. He'll destroy you. You find the most dangerous guy that you can tame and point in the direction of your enemies. That makes you the most powerful woman. Wow. Guys, I got to tell you something. This is crazy good. What an answer, Mike P. Honestly, great. Women want danger they can tame. Guys, for me, that answers it all for me. That answers it all. I don't have any more questions. Mike, just like in one sentence. I could have talked here for an hour trying to figure it out. This man came in here with one sentence, one strike, one kill. He figured it out. Mike P, you're a genius. Honestly. I say it all honestly. You're right. Because the most dangerous guy, the guy was in the desert running amok, raiding caravans. He's a psychopath. If he falls in love with you and you tame him, you can tell, hey, look, why don't you go get these resources for me, those resources for me? Why don't you protect me from these enemies? She can use him. She can puppet master the most dangerous individual. Genius. I love it. What is the soul right? Let's see. Oh yeah, I've used soul right. Yes. This is a nice device. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. I gotta be honest with you. I went back to like my regular routine, but it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's a good device. But I personally, I've had him. I've used it. I've tried it. I don't have too much trouble with my psoas personally. Good. Now determinism, please. Okay, we talked about women, guys. The most important thing about a woman, how to choose a woman, loyalty. Then after, beauty. Beauty, very important, okay? I would tell you usually beauty, because in most societies, we go by beauty. Why? Because loyalty used to be a given. But in this society, it's no longer a given, okay? In the ancient world, guys, in the medieval world, the woman would be risking her life to cheat on her man, be disloyal. Risking her life. Nowadays, there's no risk, right? So you're going to see more of it. So in our day and age, choose a woman on her loyalty. She's traditional. She wants kids. Like she wants to be, because if she doesn't want kids, guys, don't marry her. There's no point in marrying her. In my opinion, guys, this is my advice to you: don't marry her. You're taking a risk for no reward. That's just my opinion. Loyalty, beauty. Marry a girl that's your opposite. Marry a girl that's very, very different than you. She'll complement you. You'll compliment her. You'll become a better person. She'll become a better person. You guys will feed off each other. You'll see another way of doing things, and it'll expand your horizons. I would say one is loyalty in this side of the world, okay? Because it's a given in the other side of the world. But this side of the world, I got to tell you guys, there's got to be loyalty. Beauty is very important, guys, because I'll tell you something. Men, you need to look at your wife, and she has to be beautiful. I'm telling you. Guys, don't say, coach, you're coach, you're so superficial. Oh, coach, trust me on this. Just trust me on this, okay? I've been with my wife a long time. Beauty is important. She has to take care of her looks. You got to take care of your looks, because look, the whole point we're together is the attraction. The rest we work around. Look, if my wife wasn't beautiful, why aren't we just friends? Like, not that I even want to be friends, but that's the whole point why she's my wife, because there's an attraction there, and we're going to work around that attraction. This is very important. Now, I'm not saying she has to be the most beautiful. I'm not saying she can't have a blemish. I'm just saying there should be an attraction. It's very important. You can't overlook the importance of attraction. She has to be attractive to you. She doesn't have to be attractive to everybody else, but if you find her beautiful, that's very important. She has to have a good character. I can't stand women that swear. Sometimes I'm in a public area, and a woman swears. She cusses like a man. Oh my God, man, I find that so incredibly unattractive in a woman. So incredibly unattractive. Like, my wife would never swear. Never. She would never cuss. Now, I just find that so unattractive. It's so masculine. It's such a masculine thing to do, to swear, cuss. She has to have a good character, guys. A sweet, loving, friendly, kind, generous character. This is very important. Now, I might be describing an impossible woman here to you all, but they exist. A woman who's loyal, she's beautiful, she has a good character, she's your opposite, This will keep your life exciting, in my opinion. These are the most important things that I'm thinking of now. And you got to expect her to be a good mother. This woman will be a good mother to my children. This is obviously very important, but I think that's a given. Most women have that nurturing instinct. They will be good mothers. Most women. Okay, guys, gentlemen. Unified MMA. I don't know what that is. Oh, no, I'm not familiar with that matchup. Sorry, Hassan. Not familiar with that matchup. Okay, coach, thanks. Determinism, please. Why do atheists believe determinism? Why do atheists believe determine the world? Question mark. Okay, let's talk about determinism. Guys, I'm going to end it on this. No more super chat. Do not super chat. Guys, today I made a super massive fumble. I talked about 10 minutes on this podcast with no volume. I messed up the volume before. I had a technical issue. I screwed it up. I didn't do a sound check. I got arrogant. So I'm going to give you guys a little determinism talk. It's going to be fun, I hope. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. Atheists believe in determinism. Theists believe in determinism. Why do we all believe in determinism? I like to say, if you either believe in determinism or you don't understand it. I heard a philosopher say that once, and I think it was brilliant, and I think he was totally right. Some scientists that don't understand the science of philosophy, sometimes they're going to say, oh, there are random events, and they're completely wrong. Okay, because what is a random event? Guys, please, don't jump to a conclusion. Let me give my definitions first. A random event is an event that happens that has no explanation. If an event occurs and it has no explanation, it's a random event. Think about it. If JFK's head exploded, poof, and there was no bullet fired and we can't find any reason, it just happened. It's random. His head was on his shoulders and all of a sudden, poof, no head on the shoulders. Now, Leibniz told us, look, we have something called PSR, principle of sufficient reason. Everything that happens has a reason. There's a logical reason behind it. Everything that is contingent. Okay, or I'm going to define contingency down the road. But look, JFK's head blowing up, there was a reason. You can't say it was a random event. Somebody shot the man in the face, in the back, in the head. Somebody killed that man. He was assassinated. That didn't just happen out of the blue. He wasn't just driving in that Cadillac and all of a sudden, poof, an unexplained event happened and his head now was blown off his shoulders. If you use the word random, literally, that's what you mean. And that's impossible. That makes no sense. We could trace it back to the action of a bullet being fired. We have material evidence of the case. We have material evidence. We have video evidence. As a matter of fact, we've never in the history of mankind seen a head explode like that wasn't shot at or hit with some kind of object. Every single instance of a head blowing up like that had a sufficient reason. We traced it back to a cause. The effect was caused by this particular bullet. If you use the word random, literally, you're trying to tell us that, look, it just poof happened and there's no explanation. That would be insane. If you believe in random events, then science doesn't exist. Science is a byproduct of our imagination. All of science, every scientific experiment ever conducted was just a giant fluke. Of course, nobody believes this, but if you say that randomness exists, you've now just said that things happen with no explanation. But science is based on the axiom that one thing causes another. And we try to isolate variables to find out what caused what. The entire scientific enterprise rests on several axioms, and one of them is that one event causes another. If event A never happened, event B would have never happened. If my parents never met, I would have never existed. I didn't just poof. I wasn't just poof born into existence. If Coach Zahabi was poof born into existence, didn't have any parents, didn't have another cause, then he was a random event. Nobody thinks that way. If tomorrow you walk out your door and you see your windows all broken, all your windows are smashed, and I tell you, that just happened. No cause. It had nothing to do with atmospheric pressure. It had nothing to do with you getting caught cheating on your wife. It didn't have anything to do with the local drug dealer wanting his money from you. And no, nothing to do with all that stuff. No. It's just poof. Nobody would accept that explanation. Imagine you were walking down the street and I was walking behind you and I slapped you behind the head. Pow! And then you turned around. I'm like, hey man, I didn't touch you. That just happened. It was a random event. Nobody believes in random events. Literally, when we say random, guys, I'm sorry I'm beating into your head here because the word random is so misused. A random event, usually when we use the term random, we mean that look, these things are happening, but we can't keep track of it all. So to us, it appears random. Okay, it appears random to you, but it is not actually literally random. That's what we can't forget. That's what Leibniz, Pierre-Simon Laplace, Razali, Aristotle, David Hume all said. It's not literally random. Don't say literally random. Things can't come into existence without a cause. Everything is being pushed by something before it. I've talked about the billiard ball thought experiment. I'm going to run through it very quickly. Okay, very quickly. And then I'm going to go to something deeper. Okay, I'm going to take you guys a little deeper than usual. Imagine two men looking at a billiard ball table, and I hit the billiard balls, and the physicist can predict where every ball is going to end up. I told him which angle I'm going to hit the ball, how hard I'm going to hit it. He had a way to quantify it all. And he could tell you where every ball is going to land. He's like, the 8 ball is going to go here, the 9 ball is going to go there, the 1 ball is going to go into the side pocket. He calculates it all. Now, the layman, the guy who doesn't understand anything about physics, geometry, momentum, etc., he's like, oh, just disperse in a random way, in a random order. It was just chaos. Well, the physicist is going to have a hard time explaining it to him. No, it wasn't chaotic. All the motions of every billiard ball was determined. Well, think about your whole body as billiard balls. Think about the entire universe as just atoms bouncing around in the void. And whatever initiated one atom to move, that's what caused all this chaos we see. The world came to be because it was inevitable that the world was going to end up the way it is. Like when the first billiard ball is hit, the 8 ball is going to end up on this exact spot. Well, guess what? When the first Big Bang happened, or whatever you believe in, whatever the first initial, it was inevitable that the planet would be exactly where it is today. Okay, so that's determinism. If you deny determinism, then you're denying science. And you believe that when I slapped you behind the head and I told you, hey, it just happened, it wasn't me. You're like, wait a second. Oh, maybe it did just happen. Okay, you might believe in things like that, but nobody does. So we can't argue for randomness. Okay, not literally. Randomness is an illusion of the mind. It's a projection of the mind. It seems random to us, but it really isn't. It was determined. It was predictable. And like one of Isaac Newton's successors said, that if you give me the velocity and position of the atom in your hand, I could tell you where it's going to be in the future. He's basically saying if you had a divine calculator and he can calculate all the atoms bouncing around in the universe, he could tell you where your hand's going to be in 5 years from now. But you're like, hey, but you don't know what I'm going to decide to do in the next 5 years. It doesn't matter to him. All he needs is the angle, velocity, and position. That's all he needs. He'll do the math, and that's it. Of course, he would need the intellectual capacity of God and the computing power of a divine calculator. All that being said, it's possible. It's doable. It's logically true. His claim is logically true. Now, determinism occurred and explains all scientific, it justifies science. If we mistakenly believe in randomness, we are rug pulling science. We cannot accept randomness. If there's one random event that ever happened, it defies all of science. Why? Because I could always explain all events that way. Tomorrow, if I see a building burnt down and I'm like, hey, let's do an investigation, figure out what happened here. No. It just randomly happened. You don't have to. I can give that explanation for anything. If the world just randomly popped up out of non-existence, then I could explain anything that way. Okay, so we have to put randomness to rest. It's a myth. It's a byproduct of the mind. It's imagination. It's emergence. Okay. Now, okay, where does that leave us? Well, there's another very important question. Here's the really important question, and I want you guys to really give me a chance to hammer this one in, okay? Because it's complicated, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible. When did matter start moving itself? So we know Newton, the laws of motion. There was a big bang, stars emerged, then, you have elementary particles, of course, stars emerge, you have these new elements that are forged, you have molecules, you have all these things colliding in one another, creating chaos, and all of a sudden they're creating larger and larger bodies. Gravity's pulling more and more matter together. There's this fusion and chaos. There's this ballet. And all of a sudden, our Earth emerges. We have this Earth. It took billions of years, but the Earth starts to emerge. And then you have this kind of matter. At one point, we go from Isaac Newton to Darwin. Darwin is life. Darwin starts with life. Whenever there was life, they started competing for resources. The second there was 2 living cells, that was Darwinism. Darwinism started. They're competing for resources. But that matter seems to be moving itself. Think about it. But we just said in our system, nothing moves itself. Everything is moved by a previous mover. Yet we're observing this kind of matter bouncing around in the universe that's moving itself. That's what we call in philosophy, we call it agency. Me and you, we have agency. So imagine, for instance, I had a robotic arm, okay? My arm was robotic. NASA built me an arm, and now because I had my arm cut off. I had a disease. They cut off the arm. I'm going to make up a story here. And they gave me this perfectly robotic arm. And then one day I was in a store, and that robotic arm reached out and grabbed what did it grab? It grabbed the chocolate bar and stuck it in my pocket. Now, I didn't know it did that. I didn't know that. So then I get arrested, and there's a whole media scandal. Coach Zahabi steals, petty theft. Can you believe it? Coach Zahabi stealing. And then I was like, guys, I didn't do that. I didn't command the arm to move on my own. And then they do an investigation, and they realize my hand got hacked. And they prove it, and they say, look, he had no agency over his arm. His arm actually was hacked. Some computer hacker hacked him. He saw him in the surveillance. And he's like, wouldn't it be funny to make his arm move and steal a chocolate bar and bust him for it? Ha, 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 we pranked Coach. Let's say that was all proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. People would say, oh, Coach, he didn't move that arm. That arm was not under his agency. Don't forget, agency, free will means you could have chosen otherwise. That's how we define free will generally in philosophy. You could have chosen otherwise. Now, stealing that candy, I couldn't have chosen otherwise because I wasn't the one pushing the buttons. Some guy was remotely controlling my arm. So we would say, okay, Coach Zahabi is not guilty of stealing that chocolate bar. Now, let's look at fire. Let's say a fire is burning down a building, and I walk into that building, and I say, look, fire has metabolism, fire consuming calories, fire is doing all these things that we describe life to do. And I start telling the fire, look, please don't burn this building. I'll give you 3 buildings that are better than it. Do you mind moving your fire burning activity to this other building? And you'd be like, Coach, that's ridiculous. The fire just burns. It doesn't have agency. It can't act any other way. So you and me would agree that fire has no free will, even though it seems alive. It consumes, it has a metabolism, it grows. It has all the check marks of life, almost. And, life is not perfectly defined. We can't agree on a perfect definition of life. Believe me, we philosophers and scientists have tried. There's no exact definition for life. It's kind of debatable. But you would tell me, Coach, that fire can't act otherwise. Hence, it has no agency. It has no free will. There's no way to bribe it. There's no way to incentivize it to otherwise. So you would say, oh, okay, you're right. There's no agency there. Okay, so we have Newton. We have chaos, matter bumping into each other, very similar to a billiard ball table. And then we have this matter, me and you, that's moving itself. Very strange thing. Now, here's the thing. Here's where we have to ask our atheist friends. Because don't forget, when we ask scientists, is there any special matter in the universe? Is there anything out there that's special anyway, ontologically special, meaning it has a different nature? And the answer is no. The scientists tell us no. The same thing that makes your body up makes up the rest of the universe. You don't have any special matter whatsoever. So ontologically, we're no different than that rock over there. That's what they tell us. So we say, okay, well, how come this matter over here, this lump of matter, me, is moving itself? I'm moving myself. That's a major question that atheistic philosophers cannot answer. Their whole thing is that, oh, no, you're not moving yourself. You're actually we're still in Newton. You're still the billiard balls, and choice is an illusion. They tell us choice is an illusion. Famously, Daniel Dennett, who recently passed, said basically the mind is an illusion. So your whole feeling of free will, illusionary. Then we tell scientists, look, if that's true, here's the part that they dropped the ball. Now this is really a bad knockout blow to them. If that's true, then every word I'm saying in this mic is the universe talking. Because I have no agency over my words. I'm just billiard balls bouncing around in my brain. The brain is making my tongue move the way it is, and it's pumping my lungs and diaphragm, expelling the air to say these words. And actually, logic should not exist. Logic in your worldview, if we are just blind forces moving around, sloshing atoms around, then everything I'm saying now makes no reason is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. Logic is an illusion. Because every argument that I'm making, all the rational things that I'm saying is just a byproduct of random forces. Ultimately, like the person in the chat was saying, what are these movements attributed to? Well, random forces. That's what they tell us. That's not my position. I think that's insane. I think it's absolutely nonsensical, because that would mean the atheist now, guys, this is what we call small circle. I'm happy if you guys are still listening. There's 189 listeners still. This is what we call small circle philosophy. Most people push eject. They can't think this. They can't think. It's uncomfortable to think about this. Most people they just find it uncomfortable. They start thinking about these things like, man, turn on the Kardashians. I can't. This is giving me a headache. And I get it. It's not for everybody. But for those of you who are not lovers of the Kardashians and whatever else entertains you, and you're interested in this, how can you trace it back to random events? That would mean that I'm making a logical argument and that logic doesn't exist. So Daniel Dennett, when he said that logic is an illusion, your mind is an illusion because your mind is using logic, it's a self-defeating position. You're using logic to conclude that logic is wrong. That's what we call a self-defeating position. It's like if you take a gun out and shoot yourself in the foot. You're in a nonsensical, contradictory position. The atheistic worldview, and I'm willing to have a dialogue with any atheist out there, absolutely any atheist, because I don't believe atheists exist. Personally, I think it's psychology. I think atheism is just total psychology. It's not logic. No human being could reason to atheism. It doesn't exist. But I'm willing to put this out there for people to cross-examine. Absolutely, I have no shame or any hesitation whatsoever. You're telling me that all my actions, and I've talked about this publicly many times. I've even challenged one time I got into a Twitter beef with Sam Harris's followers, and I was like, he believes in determinism purely, no free will, yet he claims he wrote a book. Well, you can't write a book if you have no free will. There's no reason if you can't reason without free will. Okay, we'll get to that shortly. All you can do is be a vending machine. You know, a vending machine, when you push the A7, it doesn't reason. If A7 is pushed, then it triggers a chain reaction. It causes a chain reaction that releases whatever's in A7. Let's call it a bag of chips. There was no decision-making process. A vending machine is just a very simple computer. Computers do exactly that. Depending on what you push, it computes whatever it's told, if this, then that, and it spits it out. That's it. That's all it is. There's no thinker in there. Now, you're equivocating human beings to being computers or vending machines, which is obviously not the case because we're having a direct experience of reason. So with that said, gentlemen, let's look at the theistic worldview. This theistic worldview escapes determinism. And only the theistic worldview can escape determinism. Because we know we have free will. Think about it. We're using logic right now. It's self-evident. We're experiencing free will. I could have reasoned otherwise. I can change my mind. I can act otherwise. Now, how is that? Well, think about God for a second. Okay, just think about it for a second. I know a lot of you out there listening to me are atheists, and I love you or not. We're all one big happy family here. Let's sit down and reason. Let's have the dialogue. Let's talk and talk, even if it takes 10 years. Let's talk and keep rationing this out until we find out exactly what's going on. Think about God for a second. There is nothing outside of God. Now, there's things outside of me. I'm in a closed system. My parents were outside of me, and they created me by getting together. And their parents were outside of them. So they were compelled. I was compelled into this world. I didn't push myself into existence. Everybody's getting pushed by something else that came before it. But think about God for a second. There's nothing outside of God. If there's nothing outside of God, he's outside of determinism. Think about that. It's logically consistent. There is nothing to encompass God. You know, in Islam, we say God encompasses everything and nothing encompasses God. That's what we reflect on that. It's part of like having an epiphany about God. If there's nothing outside of God, there's nothing to compel God. It would be a contradiction. If anything compelled God, it would make him not God. It would be like a type of contradiction. But it's rationally, glaringly true. Anybody who would try to object to this would not understand the definition of God. It would be insane. It would be insane to object to this, whether you believe in God or not. It would be insane. Now, if God is free and he set into motion a determined universe, what does that tell us? The only thing that's truly free is God. The only thing. You know, that's why, you know, if you read the Quran says nothing that happens is outside the control of God. Everything is determined. The Quran is like hardcore deterministic. For those of you who have never read it, okay. I've been reading the Quran for 20 years. I'll tell you something. Determinism is a hardcore Muslim idea. Nobody talks about determinism more than the Muslims. The Quran is about the will of God, the will of God, the will. Everything is the will of God. Whether a child dies or a distant star explodes, supernova, that's all the will of God. Nothing happens outside the will of God, and nothing compels God. Makes total sense. God is outside the system. Nothing compels God. Nothing's outside of him to compel him. You're within the system. There's nothing you could do to break out of the system. However, me and you might not realize this, but we live in we're living simultaneously in two different existences. Let me explain. The visible world you see, the world you see around you that you can use your 5 senses to interact with, let's call it the visible world, that's all determined. But what's inside of me is not determined. It's not part of the causal chain. It's just running parallel to the causal chain. When I decide to move my arm and grab this glass of water, my inner volition had nothing to do with moving my arm. It had nothing to do. They're just perfectly, consistently timed together. It's an illusion of free will. However, because I willed it and it happened, we say it's a grace of God that God allowed you to grab the water. Every action starts with a desire of yours that's outside the causal chain. And don't forget, we need God to have freedom. If there was no God, we'd live in a mechanical world. We'd live in a mechanical world where one thing pushes the other. And maybe it's circular, like they say, and these things are all like the chain reaction just kind of loops around again. There was no first cause. It's just an eternal causal chain that kind of loops around forever. For me, there's a logical inconsistency there, but I don't want to get into a tangent. That's a topic for another day. If there is a God, yes, you can have a spark within you that's free will. Where does it come from? It comes from God. It comes from God. If there is a God, you would expect a universe with free will. You'd expect a universe with rational thinking. You'd expect a universe where we talk about God. Now, if I lived in an atheistic reality and there was no God, and I'm sitting here talking about God, that means the laws of motion, Isaac Newton's 3 laws of motion, are making me talk about God. Random forces are making me talk about God. Isn't that absurd? Isn't that nonsensical? That would mean that logic is untrue. That would be a self-defeating position. That would mean that science and reason and logic is all untrue. It's just random events occurring over and over again, and everything we experience is just the illusion of truth. Truth is this illusion. My words right now would just be a byproduct of random forces. But if we flip the whole paradigm over and we say, no, randomness is a byproduct of the imagination. We start with design. So people, evolutionary biologists will say, look, it seems like design, but really it's not. It's just trial and error. It's really random forces first and then a byproduct of design. Design is the imagination. You're projecting design on the world. There's no real design. I'm telling you it's the opposite. It starts with design and then random forces are the imaginary forces. In the future, mankind will catch up. They're going to have a Copernican revolution all over again. Once upon a time, all the most scientific minds in the world thought, the vast majority of them thought that the sun goes around the earth. They had all sorts of logical explanations I've talked about in the past. I'm not going to get through it now, but believe me, they had crazy good arguments. They had crazy good logical arguments about why the earth stands still and the sun goes around the earth. Think about this, okay? When you drive around in your car and you put your hand outside the window, don't you feel a rush of air? Don't you? You do, don't you, right? Well, Aristotle said, well, when I put my hand out, I don't feel a rush of air. If the earth was moving through space, I would feel a rush of air. Now, he didn't know that the earth and the atmospheric, I get why. Look, I'm not saying that, guys, I'm not agreeing with Aristotle. I'm disagreeing with Aristotle. I'm trying to say that in his mind, his argument made sense. His peers thought he was correct. They cross-examined him. Yes, there was a few people who didn't agree with him. They were the flat earthers of their time. They were the whack jobs. The locos, the quacks. And today we think they were brilliant because there were people in the time of Aristotle who thought that the earth goes around the sun and not the sun around the earth. But they were seen as, they were a minority, they were quacks. Aristotle was the man. Aristotle had way more weight. Everybody agreed with Aristotle. All the great thinkers thought Aristotle was correct. And Aristotle gave more proofs. Okay, I'm not going to get into them all because they're all a little bit crazy and they're hard to explain. But Aristotle's like, look, I don't feel a rush of air. Now, today we know why we don't feel a rush of air. The earth is moving with the air. The air is moving along with us. There's, we have an atmosphere, etc. We're a closed system, etc., etc. Aristotle, if I told Aristotle, hey, there's an atmosphere, he's like, well, I don't see it. Oh, it's invisible to the naked eye. He'd be like, that's insane. You're deducing atmosphere? How did you deduce it? How? He would ask me for proofs. Now, it's funny because I have one of my students, he's actually a professor in atmosphere. It's pretty amazing. But Aristotle, to him, with his limited knowledge, his logical argument, he thought it was an ironclad slam dunk. Let me tell you something. It was a long time before people disagreed with him. What crazy arguments do we have today that make total sense to us, but in the future are going to be debunked? I can tell you, it's a guaranteed that it's going to happen. It's guaranteed. That's what I was trying to express on the Rogan show many years ago that created chaos on the internet. Now, I think in the future, people, great thinkers, are going to, some of them are going to maybe even listen to this podcast because it's easier than reading the books. They're going to realize that first it's design and then the emergence is randomness. It's the opposite. They're going to have, just like people had a flippening, they flipped on the sun is going around the earth. Now they say, oh, it's the earth around the sun. Obviously, duh. It's completely backwards. Tomorrow they're going to flip it. The evolutionary biologists are going to be like, oh, wait a second, we got this wrong. Flip the model 180 degrees. It's design and then randomness, because randomness can be literal. If it is literal, there would be all these logical contradictions to deal with, all these logical impossibilities. Guys, I'll open it up to questions. If I wasn't perfectly clear, please do ask questions or elaborate. We want a third appearance on Joe Rogan. That's from Elias. Yeah, I would definitely do a third appearance. Wow, Neil seems like a comic at first glance, but he knows crazy scenarios about the future. I have no idea what you're talking about. quote, Haytham says, it's not matter that creates an illusion of consciousness, but consciousness that creates an illusion of matter. Bernard Heish. That's beautifully said. I would agree with that. Guys, that is very beautifully said. I'm going to read that again. It's not matter that creates the illusion of consciousness, but consciousness that creates the illusion of matter. Bernard Heish. Beautiful. I've never heard of Bernard Heish. Beautifully put. In a nutshell, that's idealism. Okay, he flipped the whole model. Mankind will catch up eventually, gentlemen. Mankind will. Tomorrow in the future, it'll be common knowledge. Of course, matter is emergence. Of course, everybody knows that now. Yeah. But you ridiculed us when we would tell you. You threatened us when we would tell you. You demeaned us. You subjugated us. You cursed us. But in the end, it's just a regular process of revolution, logical revolution. Think about it like this, okay? The scientific world is stuck at this phase right now. I'll give you for instance. Imagine I turn the faucet on. And I turn the faucet off. And I turn the faucet on, the faucet off. And the scientist is like, oh, the faucet creates the water. And I'm like, no, the water it's not dependent on the faucet. The water it's got its whole own existence somewhere else. It's just working through the faucet. He'd be like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Look, the water, the temperature, the pressure, it all correlates to these knobs. Now, of course, the brain is far more complicated. Imagine the brain had a quadrillion amount of knobs. But you get what I'm saying. I'm trying to really make it a I'm trying to boil it down to something really simple. Okay, so work with me here. No analogy is perfect. Just work with me on what I'm trying to express here. I'm telling you that, look, when I work the knobs, you're right. It correlates perfectly with the water. Because, people are going to be like, no, it's the brain that makes the mind, because if you tinker around with the brain, the mind changes. You're right. If I fiddle around with the knobs, the water goes in and out, and it gets hot, and it gets more pressure, and I'm just making it a simple turning of the knob. It correlates perfectly. And then one day I come in with a sledgehammer and I smash the knobs. I flatten them. And you're like, oh, there you just killed the water. No more water. There'll never be water again. I'm like, dude, there's a million other knobs in the world. The water's flowing in the 1,000,001 directions. Well, show me. Well, you can't see it, but obviously you can't destroy the water. Water is not subject. You can hit water with hammers all day long. It'll never be destroyed. It does nothing to the water. You're like, that makes no sense. I can't turn the knob. There's no more water. Water doesn't exist. We are born between two darknesses. In science, they tell us, look, it was dark. You didn't exist. Then poof, you came to life. Look at all this light here, all this action. And then poof, when you die, you're going to go back to an eternal sleep and nothing. It's never going to happen again. That's the atheistic paradigm. Think about it. There's our life, and then there's this two darkness. There's a darkness before, and there's a darkness after. And this light that you're experiencing now, and by light I mean like your senses are being awakened, your conscious mind is working, you're interacting with the world around you, that's just a cosmic fluke. And it's never, ever going to happen again. Richard Dawkins said, oh, there's nothing after death. Nothing. There'll never be anything. How the hell do you know? Like, what an arrogant, ignorant statement. Richard Dawkins literally knows less than a fraction of what there is to know in the world. In existence. There's so much mankind doesn't know, not just Richard Dawkins, all of us. And you think there's darkness before and darkness after, and that's it? You made that logical leap of faith. That's a bigger logical leap of faith than believing in God, let me tell you. That's an absurdity. Think about it. There's two darknesses, two eternal darknesses. And you, my special little nest, like little tiny corner of the gazillion universe, you just woke up for a second, you're gonna go right back. You're just a flash in the pan. Biggest fluke in existence. That's all you are. There's so many logical issues with that claim that I don't even want to start correcting him. It's so preposterous. It's so dumb. It's so unsophisticated. Yet, you guys bought millions of dollars worth of his books. Just two darknesses, guys. Psh, psh, boom. And you're just this cosmic fluke. And all my rationale is due to random forces. I could trace it back to random forces. That's a self-defeating position. Why not just say, look, yes, those knobs turn the water on and off, but that water is something different. It works through the... Why not accept that model? That model makes a lot more sense. It explains a lot more. It takes away all the paradoxes that we come up with when we try to convey everything is matter in the void. Nothing is in intellect that was not first in the senses, except the intellect itself. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. That's from Hassan Haytham. Hassan Haytham is on a roll. A true gentleman and a scholar. When you quote Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, you're a true gentleman and a scholar. That is beautifully well said. Would you talk to atheist philosopher Alex Malpass? He had a conversation on TAP. What's TAP? What is TAP? Yes, of course I would. I would love to have a discussion with Mr. Alex Malpass. You know, as long as he's a... Alpass, you said? As long as he's as long as he's not a troll. I'll have a conversation with anybody who's not a troll. I just avoid trolls. Okay? If you're a troll... I like to have dialogues and discussions, even a debate, but I won't prepare for a debate, okay? So I don't have time to do that. But I'll definitely have a dialogue with absolutely anybody. And if they're not trolls, I'm more happy to, because I don't like all this, I find the troll culture on the internet is so cringe. It's so cringe. I'm in the world of fighting. You guys are going to talk shit and you're not gonna fight. There's no fight at the end. That's kind of cringe, man. That's that's really cringe to me. So not that I'm inciting violence here, not that I want to fight anybody or anything like that, but I'm just saying in academia it's not the case. In academia nobody trolls one another. We just talk. We have a dialogue. We have a difference of opinion. We cite our sources. We have dialogues, and that's it. There's no clickbait troll clips, and I hate this culture, and they do it a lot in religion. I find it really bad. It's very cringe. It shouldn't be done, especially not with religion, because you give religion a bad name. Anyways, I just find it very cringe. I can't find him here on Google. Let me just search him on YouTube. Let me search him on YouTube. Look, if one day I ever debate a troll, there'd have to be a fight lined up afterwards. Because then we can go at it. And then, we glove up. We glove up. Oh, isn't it Cosmic Skeptic? He's a famous guy. Isn't that him? Ranting your philosophical hot takes. Okay, so it says Alex O'Connor. So I looked up Alex Alpas. And Cosmic Skeptic is coming up. Well, look, whoever he is, I would have a chat with him for sure. Salam Akhi, would you ever have Hamza Yusuf on the pod? And is revelation necessary to know, or just a testim to monotheism? Well, it's not a religious podcast. I wouldn't have religious guests over here, but I would go on his podcast, and I would go on a podcast that the topic is religion. Yeah, I would definitely do. Your question here, is revelation necessary to know, or just testing to monotheism? I think you're talking about natural philosophy. See, look, I'll answer your question, okay? Descartes, one of the greatest thinkers of all time, he reasoned to one God. He reasoned to one God. And he got very close to the fitra. I think he skinned it. He said, I think, therefore I am. He was close to this undeniable truth. But I don't want to get into the nuances, but there was a doubt in his unpenetrable truth. Philosophers later on, they did kind of penetrate through. Guys, I'm seeing balloons again. Does that mean anything? Does it mean my I'm seeing balloons pop up on my screen. Craziness. I don't know what these button pushers throw balloons up for, but the last time that happened, I had no volume for 10 minutes. Anyways, like I was saying, Descartes could reason back to God, one God. He was a Christian. He couldn't reason to the Trinity. He couldn't. Isaac Newton could reason to one God. He couldn't reason to the Trinity. All the great mystics of the world, they could reason back to one God, even before Scripture. If you understand this, when you read the Quran makes sense. The Quran is telling you, look, the Torah is right, the Bible is right, and then it criticizes the Bible for not being perfectly right. What's it trying to say? Is it right? Is it not right? It gets the most important part right. So by and large, it's right. It's not right in the details. God is not a Trinity. God is not resting on the seventh day, etc. God is not doing these things. Okay, so the Quran is critiquing and praising the Bible at the same time. Okay, parts of it are true, parts of it are not true. By and large, the most important part is true, that there is one God, and you could reason to that. Now, when you read the Quran tells you that you have an innate belief in God, and that everything everybody says about what happened in history, that's all doubtful. That's what the Quran is about. The Quran is telling you, look, I listen to so many lectures on history. I love history. I listen to history books all the time, history lectures. I love history. You can have a historian telling you Winston Churchill was a devil, a bad human being who was a racist. He let people starve to death. He was a devil. And then you have another historian saying, look, he's the greatest statesman ever. It all depends on their biases. Every historian has his biases. That's why they say before you read history, read up on the historian that's telling you the history. Because historians, they decide what facts get on stage and what lighting they're put in. They're interpreting the past, and they're filtering it through their biases, and they're putting it up on stage. That's why you have revisionist history. People go back and say, hey, wait a second. Let's go back and revise history and tell the story from a different outlook or from a different way. Or maybe let's be a little more skeptical on these things that people weren't skeptical about in the past. Was Christopher Columbus a bumbling idiot, or was he a genius? Depending on which historian you read. I could tell you a different story about the same human being depending on what historian I trust. History is up for interpretation. You can do that with every single figure. The Quran is telling you, you weren't there for the history. You don't know it. You're taking it upon by authority. What you do know is the innate belief in God. You have this innate religion. And the Quran is reminding you of that. Go back to that. Everybody, all of mankind, unify around that. The fitrah. We can all reason back to one God. We all have this moral compass within us. Morality changes over time, but the principles never change. The principles of the laws are true via first principles for eternity. However, laws will change over time. I don't want to give a bunch of examples on how that happens even within the Quran itself. Everybody knows this. I'm not going to go into it now because it's getting late and it's going to be quite nuanced. Specific laws can change over time. The principles behind those laws never change. What's the most important law of all? Justice. Things have to be fair. Maybe back in the day, it made sense to cut somebody's hand off. If the guy was a thief, there were no jails back in the day. There were no jails. What do you do with somebody who repeatedly steals? By the way, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was never a single hand cut ever. I'm just letting you know. It never happened. Okay, why? There's so many ways There's so many ways to repent and make up for it before your hand ever gets cut off. Literally, it never happened. Literally. I'm not saying it didn't happen in the later Arabic eras. Yes, it did. But very minimally so. And in the Prophet's time, never happened. There's no proof of it ever. It was a threat. and it's a law, but implementing the law is different than having the law. Okay, you never have to implement the law, but that law keeps people in check. And, there's many nuances to the law, many nuances. The guy has to be a repeat offender. He has to have stolen a certain amount. He has to have not willfully repented, etc. He has to be of sound mind and body. There are so many nuances to the law. It literally never happens. But look at today. Today, we have jails. We have a whole system. We have a taxpayer system that allows us to have jails. What's the more just thing to do? Well, the Quran tells you it's always the more merciful option. So now, because we have jails, we don't have to worry about stoning, lashing, cutting off limbs, hacking off the head. We don't have to worry about that. Now, some capital offenses, I think you should still be subject to the guillotine, etc. However, that's a topic for another day. But the principles have to remain true. That's what the Quran is saying. That's why people, I think, misunderstand the Quran heavily. They think that the Quran is saying it's making the same argument as the Bible. Now, the Quran is critiquing the Bible for making that statement that we're supposed to know what happened in history. No, we're not. We're not. Like the Quran is literally telling you, you were not a witness to your creation. You were not a witness to Noah. You were not a witness to these things. We're informing you. And what connects you to those people of the past is the fitrah. That's it. You have an innate belief in God. You were born with innate belief in God. Now, interestingly enough, Descartes, arguably the greatest Christian thinker of all time, the greatest logician of all time. Don't forget, Descartes, after he wrote his Meditations, philosophers were so moved by his work that they said, look, this is modern philosophy. This is new. This guy's done something nobody else has ever done. He's reached a new level. Now, I'm not saying everybody agrees with everything he says. No way. Philosophers, we don't agree on much. What I'm saying is they were so impressed. This guy shook the philosophy world. And he reasoned to one God, an innate belief in God. He got to exactly what the Quran is saying. And he could not prove history. He was not able to. He didn't even try. He couldn't reason the Trinity. He couldn't reason. He said, look, he discovered his fitrah, which is quite remarkable and quite amazing. Isaac Newton, the same exact thing. Interestingly enough, Isaac Newton, on his deathbed, he recanted the Trinity. He pretended to believe in it because you'd be punished by death. It'd be heresy in his day. He didn't recant his belief in God. If he was an atheist, he would have said, look, I don't believe in God either. By the way, what can you do? I'm on my deathbed. I got like 20 minutes left to live. What are you going to do to me? He affirmed his belief in God, told everybody, yes, look, God exists, etc. But the Trinity, that's a perversion of the church. Now, for those of you who don't know, Isaac Newton was a scholar of the Bible. He studied the Bible more than he did science. If you don't know that, you're not familiar with Isaac Newton. Everybody knows this. It's concrete bedrock history. Everybody agrees to this. The guy was a Bible genius. He was a Bible genius. Okay, he knew everything about the Bible. So when people talk about, you're asking me the question, the Quran is supposed to be in harmony with your fitrah. And that's why it's not a circular argument. We say Quran is not a circular argument because, when we learn circular argument in school, they always give the classic example. The Bible is true because I believe the Bible is true because the Bible says so. They say that they always use that as an example of circular reasoning. How do you know the Bible is true? Because the Bible said so. Well, the Bible can't corroborate the Bible. You need something else independent of the Bible to corroborate the Bible. Or else it's circular reasoning. You're using the Bible to justify the Bible. The Bible will either have to be self-evident or justified by a corroborating source. If there's no corroborating source, it's circular reasoning. The Quran admits to that exactly. It says, look, they're using circular reasoning. It critiques the Bible. Yes, they're right about God. But because I gave them the favor, I gave them that innate sense. I'm getting a thumbs up for some reason. I don't know why. That's why the Quran critiques the Bible. It says, look, yes, you're right about this. You're right about that innate. Of course you believe in God. You can't not believe in God. You couldn't take it out of you. I made you that way. But the whole Trinity thing, that's manufactured. That's artificial. You guys made that up. You guys are trying to be like the pagans, the Quran says. You guys are trying to say that this so-and-so is the son of God. That's what the pagans said. The pagans used to call their leader the son of God. You're mimicking. You're adopting their culture. You're using their lingo. You're using their language. The Quran is saying, I'm not circular reasoning, because your innate faith is going to corroborate the Quran. The Quran is going to corroborate your innate faith. The two corroborate one another. That, my friends, is the core argument of the Quran. It's different than the New Testament, but the Jews do also say exactly the same thing. They call it Beni Noah. They say you're born in the innate sense. That's why when they read the Bible, they have this belief in, they have the same dynamic. They believe that it also corroborates. However, the Quran literally says it. I've never really been told where in the Torah it literally says it. I believe them. If they tell me that, I believe them. I'm not going to doubt them until somebody tells me it's not true. However, the New Testament is criticized for moving towards grounding religion in history, like a historical event. Okay, guys, what time is it? We've been going on 2 hours, 20 minutes. Let's end it on a fun note. Starting from your conclusion. That's correct. Circular reasoning is when you start from your conclusion. Your conclusion and the start is the same. Is it possible for a BJJ student to get denoted to white belt? That's from Frankie. Yes, it is possible. I just recently had a student of mine that got his purple belt from another gym and asked me permission just the other day. He's like, can I take my purple belt off and go back to blue belt? And I was like, yeah, of course. If you feel that's the right thing to do. And I agree, it's the right thing for him to do, because he's not up to par with the purple belts in the gym. And I think trainers do that all the time. They give the belt way too early, and it's just a curse on this. The student doesn't like wearing the belt. Doesn't feel it's right. Doesn't sound a right fit. Salam, coach. How do you manage to turn your children into good training partners? I'm a mom to 3 boys and struggle with them with each other. Thank you for your content. That's from Al-Shimi. Al-Shimi, I think you're the only female listener. Wow, I'm honored to have a female in the group. Is there any other females? Please give a thumbs up if there are any other females in the group. I honestly think there's only one, because I remember seeing my YouTube statistics a long time ago, and it was like 99.8% male listeners. 99.8% male listeners. Isn't that incredible? I'm a mom of 3 boys. How do I struggle with getting them to train with each other? That's a tough one. You have 3 boys. They're gonna be boys. I would say try to find a good trainer. Like, it's not easy to train kids. It's really not easy. Find a really, really good trainer in your neighborhood and find a really good kids program. Don't just try to train them amongst themselves. Try to get out there. Try to put them in a system where an expert trainer can take them on, because it's just too complicated for somebody. Unless you're very seasoned in jiu-jitsu and training, then it could make sense. But I highly recommend they get that social aspect, interacting with other kids, seeing what else is out there. It's going to be a good, positive experience. It's going to help them with their character. Martial arts is fantastic for developing the character. I identify as a female. That's from Shake. Shake and Bake. No, I want biological females. Please, I'm only interested in biological females. John Danaher trains his neck with neck bridges, and isn't this the opposite of way you train your neck? Why does John do that? ? Plus, he's older. That's from Hassan Haytham. Look, we don't have all the same opinion. Now, how often does John train his neck? Probably not too often. He doesn't really wrestle too much. He has a bad leg, so he just kind of flow drills. Okay, he kind of flow rolls. He doesn't really roll too hard. He hasn't rolled hard, I think, in many, many years. So I don't think neck bridging is an issue for him. He probably doesn't do too much. Look, I'm okay with neck bridging, guys. I just don't think you should do too much of it. That's my answer to you. I'm influenced by Kelly Starrett. I did a deep dive in the Kelly Starrett game, and he was telling me flexing your spine in any way under load is generally not good. You're eroding your spine more quickly. You're minimizing the surface the surface area when it comes to pressure and on that surface area, and it erodes. You're risking your neck more. Can you do it and never get hurt? Sure. Can you do it and one day click, you hear a bad noise in your neck and your neck's never the same? That's also possible. Why risk it? I think I get all the benefits I need with headstand. The neck has to be stabilized, not mobilized. You don't need your neck to be a prime mover. Okay, so I highly, highly recommend doing more of the static holds with your neck. Your neck will become very strong and you won't risk using up your vertebrae. There are no women here. For us, why do you look like a Pakistani? That's from Farhan. Well, I take that as a compliment. Thank you. Okay, Farhan, don't make me put you in a timeout, man. You're probably like a 12-year-old kid. Salam, coach. I'm flying in town, Montreal, May 27th/29th. Guys, I'm scheduled to be in Morocco. Let me see if am I going to be here. I fly back and forth from Morocco for training. So I'm away quite a bit. I'm away 27. Will I be here? I think so. I'll be here 27, 29th, and then leaving shortly after that. Again. Okay, so I'll be in I'm there for UFC in Saudi Arabia, guys. I have possibly a seminar lined up. I got somebody reached out to us. We're going to be lining up a seminar there. So I can definitely tell you I'm looking forward to going to Saudi Arabia. Coach, do you like women? That's from Water. No, I do not. I love women. I don't like them. I love them. Shake and Bake asks, can I be a moderator? Okay. I'll put you moderator, but I'm putting my trust in you. Please don't do anything naughty. Why did the Mongols adopt Islam? That's from Yanni. Yanni, I have my theories on that, but I want to do more research. I'll come back to you with a better answer once I do more thorough research. Where do you train in Morocco? That's from Zico in a private gym, guys. So I can't really give you any more info than that, but it's a private gym. That's all I can say. Have you worked with Helena Krevar yet? That's from Hirsch. No, I have not. No, I'm a big admirer, but I have not worked with her. Thoughts on Napoleon? That's from Water. He's a very interesting figure. I've watched a bunch of documentaries on him, but I find all the documentaries, they never go too deep in his life. I'm looking one day to find a really good book on him and really study his life. I'm very familiar with the things he's done, but I didn't take a deep dive into his biography yet, which I do plan eventually to do so. He's one of the most influential men in history. He's changed the course of history, no doubt about it. He's implemented laws that have shaped the world. His meteoric rise was, what can I say? Incredible. But the movie was horrible. I watched the movie. It was horrible. And they just skipped through his life so quickly. I had to explain to my wife what was going on. It doesn't make sense. All of a sudden he's on a rock. I tell my wife he gets banned. He gets what do you call it? Exiled. And now he's on a rock. He's gonna try to manage a coup. I didn't fill it in. The movie was so bad, man. The new Napoleon movie was so bad. It was crazy. Please get Joe Rogan and debunk. Please go on Joe Rogan and debunk Gad Saad and his bullshit on Islam. He's been on Joe Rogan 10 times. That's from Hassan. Guys, I don't know why people like Saad Gad. He's the dumbest, most ridiculous clown on the internet. I think he's a complete clown. He's a Muslim hater. He hates everything about Islam. He got humiliated by quoting hadith, and then Rogan pulled it up, and he's like, this is hadith is highly unauthentic, and he just completely embarrassed himself, and he didn't take it back. The guy just hates Muslims. He always just tries to paint us in the most vile, like we're the most disgusting, despicable human beings on the face of the earth. He tries to deny the golden age of Islam, like we never contributed anything. Oh my God, man. I could completely destroy him on these topics. He's such a fool. Like he's the biggest dog on the face of the earth. Like he's a clown. He has a background in marketing. He claims he puts in his biography, public intellectual. Okay, you're a public intellectual. Wow. I'm not saying he's not a smart guy, but he just hates so much. Like, goodness gracious. He just hates us so bad. It's disgusting. It's like, just won't shut up about it. Every time he gets on there, he's always ranting about the Muslims. We don't sit up and worry about the Muslims. We're worried about the Muslims. You know, like the Muslims are a danger. They're a danger. Oh, we're so bad. Oh, we're so going to take over. Oh, we're so evil. We never did anything nice in the world. Oh, they're so bad. I sleep at night and I'm scared of them. Like, dude, take it easy, man. Take a chill pill. The dumbest thing he did was deny the golden age of Islam. That is absurd. That is absurd. The Muslims literally invented the scientific method. Literally. Like, literally. Hypothesis, create a test, create controls, observation, has to be recreatable. All that is Hassan ibn Haytham. It all came from the Muslim golden age. And I can't say Arab golden age because there were a lot of non-Arab Muslims. And the first university, arguably, was Baghdad, the house of wisdom. Now, how is he going to deny the house of wisdom where literally all the greatest thinkers in the world would travel to Baghdad? They wrote in Arabic. The works had to be translated from Arabic. Okay, here's one he can never get around. Because we have consensus. All historians have consensus. If it wasn't for Islam, there would be no philosophy. All the works of Aristotle and Plato and all the great thinkers of the past would have been erased. Why? The Christians were actively burning every book that wasn't the Bible. Any competing theory had to be burned. How did the works survive? They were controlled by the Arabs. That's how I tell Arabs. Every time a Muslim tells me, because, Muslims later on adopted these Christian attitudes. Okay, now Christianity went through different phases, guys. I'm not trying to make a blanket statement on all Christians. There were many great Christian thinkers who opposed this view, and I praise them, and I say it all the time. So please don't take it as a blanket statement on all Christians. The Christians in power, the Christians in charge, they had a worldview that philosophy is bad, logic is bad, it's all part of the works of the devil, and let's burn all those books. There was that attitude. We can't deny it. And I don't deny it. It exists in Islam as well. I don't deny it. But in early Islam, it didn't exist. Philosophy was not a threat. And then later there was some beef, yes, and then some people started seeing it as a threat. They're thinking the Christians are right. Look, it's rocking the boat, etc. We don't need all this craziness. We know what truth is. We know what logic is. It's crazy. You can't deny that the Muslims not only collected all the work, but improved on it. Averroes is known as the corrector of Aristotle. Avicenna is immortalized in the painting of from Raphael, where he puts all the great Athenian thinkers, all the Greeks, and then there's an Arab guy in there. You can't. It's immortalized. Even the most hardcore. Even the most hardcore Europeans knew. Europe was based on modeling after the Arabic world. Large parts of it. We have total consensus on it. When you learn the history of philosophy, you learn that the Arabs preserved philosophy. Is he going to now, this guy with his marketing degree, and he says he studied evolutionary biology in the marketplace. I don't know exactly what that means, but is he now going to come in my world, in my wheelhouse, and tell me, look, well, actually, all the historians of philosophy, all of them, they're out to lunch. They're totally wrong. There was never any thinking Arabs. Like, it didn't exist. Okay, well, how is he going to explain paper? Yes, paper was invented by the Chinese, but who produced paper en masse? There was a time where all the books in the world were in Arabs, the possession of the Arabs. How is he gonna sweep that under the rug? Jewish people have 3,000 years of history. Muslims, we have 1,400 years of history, roughly. Because he was boasting of how, oh, look, we won so many, what's it called? He's boasting about, what you call that? Nobel Prize. Oh, look how many Jews won the Nobel Prize. Muslims never win the Nobel Prize. Well, number one, I want to say something, okay? Blacks don't win the Nobel Prize. Asians don't win the Nobel Prize. Hindus don't win the Nobel Prize. Are you saying all of us non-Europeans, we're all dumb? Is that what you're trying to say? I don't even know how I think you have to be nominated and then they vote or whatnot. Yeah, that's your measuring stick. That's your side of the world. You guys you're giving each other these prizes. I'm not saying there's not intelligent Jewish people. Of course there is, absolutely. But I'm saying then take that statement you're saying about the Arabs, the Muslims, sorry, and say it about the Asians too, because Asians don't win. Let's look it up, okay? Let's look up who win Nobel's Prize by race, okay? Prize by ethnicity. .7% of winners are black, by the way. That just popped up. Let's see if there's a bar chart. Okay. All right, here we go. 300 from 1901 to 2013. Okay, you could see United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Switzerland, Sweden, all the European, white, 27 Russian, Japan 19 only, Asia 30 only. That's well over 1 billion people. Africa 16, Middle East 20. Okay, so Japan 19, the highest IQ population in the world, 19. Other East Asian Europe 58. Okay, that's quite significant. The highest is the United States, 347. Guys, you know what? Muslims, we have 1,400 years of history. Jews have 3,000 years of history. Let me ask you a question. Take all that history. We're half as old. Who has influenced the world more scientifically, mathematically, geopolitically? By far, by a massive margin, it's the Muslims. Why do you think they call it Arabic numerals? Why do they call it algebra? Algebra is an Arabic word. Arithmetic. Arithmetic comes from an Arabic thinker. That was literally how arithmetic is how they would say his name in Latin. Gad Saad is so hateful of Arabs, man. He's so of Muslims that he'll say absolutely, he twists and turns the facts of history. He's not a historian. That's the crazy thing. He's not a historian. He doesn't know the history of philosophy. You can't deny Arab had a heavy hand. Muslims had a heavy hand in philosophy. That's why when Muslims tell me how philosophy is wrong, I'm like, well, there wouldn't even be philosophy if it wasn't for the Muslims. They totally protected Greek thinking during the dark ages of Christianity, when Christianity was trying to burn every book that wasn't a Christian book. How could you say that the classic Arabs had it right and they preserved philosophy and they're wrong? And philosophy is wrong. They actually went far by it. They went heavily into philosophy. Like, it's just such an insane, ignorant thing to say. And look, I'm looking at the Nobel Prizes. Maybe they have a bias. Maybe what they value. Maybe they're a small body of people that vote. I'm not even sure how it's put together. I got to do a little more research. But Let's put it all together. Not why are we look, it's only been 100 years they're giving out Nobel Prizes. A little over 100 years. Let's look at the whole 1,400 years. Let's compare that. Because 100 years, that's a weekend. That's a weekend in history. That's a weekend. That's not even 1% of the time we've been on this earth. Let's give it some time. Let's look at the whole big picture. Thank you, Waters. Don't waste your breath on Mr. Sad, the sad man. Charles, I think you're right, man. He is sad. Very sad. I got to say, man, honestly, he's got to stick up his rear end, man. He just can't every appearance, man. Next time I go on Rogan, guys, I will rip Gatsad. I will rip him. I will challenge him. I will rip him. Of course, he can't go man to man with me. He could never. Guys, please. Fat, sad, chubby little sad. Let me look at his age. Hold on. Man, he has such an ugly face too, and he's Lebanese too. Ah, man, I can't look at his face. It's such a disgusting looking face. How old is he? I hope he's 59 years old. Okay, guys, I'm gonna respect my elders here. I'm not gonna talk about like going man to man or anything like that. I'm gonna respect him. He's much older than me. He's 59. Let's just say, if I ever go on Rogan again, guys, I'm telling you, I'm gonna rip Gatsad. I'm gonna rip him. I'm gonna say, look, Joe, I gotta tell you, man, I'm really sick of one of your guests, man. I gotta call him out right now. And see, I'll ask him before. I'll ask Joe, can I rip one of your guests? I won't tell you who it is, but I want to rip one of them. And if he tells me, look, you can do it as you wish, I'll do it. If he tells me, no, I'd rather you not, I won't do it. Please go back on Rogan. Yeah, well, guys, petition Rogan. I'm sure he would be happy to do it. Coach, have you delved deep into mysticism? That's from Sirt. Yes, I have. Extremely deeply. Thank you, Yasir. I try to maintain a sense of class, a little bit of class. Coach, I heard that Immanuel Kant's work is so complex that even Germans read his text in English and not German. Is that true? That's from Farhan. It's extremely complex. You have to read commentary. But the best commentary is probably in English. So they're probably reading the commentary. They probably read it in German and then the English commentary. That's probably what they're referring to, because you want the original German, of course. And oftentimes when you read commentary, they'll give you the German word and they'll explain to you the German word. And they'll say, like, this German word doesn't really have a perfect translation in English, so here's an explanation. And then throughout their commentary, they'll use that German word. They define it and then use it. Like Arabs would do that as well a lot. Hi, Coach. Do you do Nordic curls? That's from Jonathan Weissman. I like Nordic curls. I think they're great. I find them to be very important for advanced athletes. Regular Joe, I don't think you need them. I think they're too advanced. I think that's like, you've trained your hamstring in so many ways and now you want to give it a very potent shot. It makes sense. George St. Pierre actually came out with a device that scales down the intensity, and I really like it. He's supposed to give me one. Actually, I haven't gotten it yet, but if I ever get one, I'm going to show it to you guys on this channel just for fun. And I'm telling you, it's a great device. I really like, obviously, hamstring training, but all the Nordic curls people do out there, I find they're too intense for a vast majority of the athletes. You don't need it. There's better ways, safer ways to stimulate the hamstring without straining yourself. Gadsad is Errol Houani's uncle. Look it up. I've heard that. Yeah, Hirsch. I've heard that. You're right. Your content has been invaluable access to a world-class coach. Has helped me so much with coaching my kids in BJJ and general. Would love more content on training for kids in the future. Thank you. That's from Al-Shimi. My pleasure, Al-Shimi. My pleasure. And I recommend get my headlock escape video. You see my kids are in there. I think it's good for adults as well because headlock is a very important topic in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Check out the headlock video, guys. Don't forget to use promo code LEVELUP50 off. It's on the bottom of your screen. Get anything you want, 50% off on jujiclub.com. Ibn Khaldun's book, Mu'aqadima, it's a gem. That's from Hassan. Hassan, you're right. Ibn Khaldun, another giant, the man who gave us economics. Ibn Khaldun is known as one of the great geniuses in history. I personally haven't done a deep dive in his works because I've heard about him so much, but I eventually will. But he covers more society, and I'm very familiar with his key topics: society, economics, sciences, like all the sciences, but mostly society and economics. He was a genius. He's hailed by everybody. God, sad God is going to say, oh, they didn't exist. They didn't contribute anything. Shut your stupid fat mouth. Shut your stupid fat mouth. That is the dumbest, stupidest, ignorant thing I've ever heard. Ignorant. Literally the golden age of the greatest scientific discoveries in history all happened under Muslim rule. Not only did we contribute, the Muslims contributed more than everybody. And I'm not just trying to say that to clout. And Islam is not about being the number one scientific community. It's not about that. But the Arabs went from nothing to being number one 100 years after the Quran. Guys, you have to understand, Arabs, we didn't have a civilization before Islam. We love Islam because it brought us out of a time of ignorance. We call it Jahiliyyah, the period of ignorance. One day we'll talk about like the transition from one to the other. Guys, let me tell you something. Historians, outside of Arab historians, they don't even talk about Mecca. You know, Mecca, everybody knows what Mecca is. With the cube, everybody knows Mecca. Everybody's seen it on TV. Before Islam, the nations, the Persians and Romans, they didn't even know about Mecca. They never write about Mecca. There's one scholar out there, he's trying to say that Mecca was really Petra and the Arabs, everything happened in Petra. Petra is another famous city now that's known. And that's because Petra was also known as Mecca. And he takes non-Muslim writings and he says, look, they're pointing to Petra. They're saying the Arabs from Petra. What that scholar doesn't understand is that those Roman writers, they didn't know about Mecca. Today's Mecca, the one with the black cube. They didn't even know it existed. That's the whole point. As they're like, oh, those Arabs, where is it? It must be that Petra thing. They were making a vague claim. They don't know about the Arabs' Mecca. Mecca was nothing to them. It's just, there was no structures built in Mecca. Very little structures. We're talking about a very small population. Now, people try to say, oh, no, pagans came from all over to do pilgrimage. Yes, but a small amount of Arab pagans. The Arabs were nothing. Not the Roman pagans. The Roman pagans didn't come to Mecca with the black cube. No, they didn't come to Mecca. The Arab pagans came to Mecca and they worshipped some Roman gods. Yes, because they thought those gods made Roman great, so we're going to worship these gods too. Mecca was not a worldwide destination. No, today it is, yes. Back then, it was just the Arab communities that came to it. The Persian pagans and the Roman pagans couldn't care less about Mecca. They didn't even know it existed. It wasn't on their maps. They don't have any, there's nothing about Mecca till after Islam. Some people even try to raise that, which is ridiculous because there's so many villages there's so many towns that probably we'll never hear of because we just have like little remnants. We don't know their name, but we find little remnants. Now we know for sure Mecca existed because look, it's there today, and to deny its history would be a greater conspiracy theory than anything we could come up with. It would be absurd. There's too much material evidence. But what I'm trying to say, it was so unpopular and unknown. Like if I named you a village in the Inuit village, like where the people live up north and it's really cold, and you're like, yeah, I never heard of that. Yeah, because it's not popular. People don't go there. Same thing with the Arabs. The Arabs had little villages. Now, what I'm telling you is, that's why we have a different attitude towards our religion. When our religion came, we became great. We became a massive empire. We became super intellectual, etc. We had a huge increase we were put on the map. Now the Christians is the opposite. That's the thing. People criticize Christianity because of this. Okay, now I don't think it's merited 100%, but there is some truth to it and there's some exaggeration. The Romans were great. They were powerful. Then they converted to Christianity. 400 years later, it collapses. A lot of historians blame Christianity. I don't personally. I think there was a mixed bag. But a lot of historians blame Christianity. And then they have an Enlightenment period where the thinkers were like, let's go back to how we used to think before. The Enlightenment period is saying, let's go back to Aristotelian thinking, logical thinking. So they're saying, that's why a lot of intellectuals, like the scientific community, they almost like despise Christianity. Like they always give cheap shots to Christianity. Why? Because they're like, oh, well, when Christianity was in charge, you killed our science, and we love our science. It's the opposite for us. Okay, now here's the sad thing about Muslim thinkers, is we had a boom, everything went well, and then we started adopting that mindset that the Christians adopted. Because I don't think it's inherent in Christianity, and I don't think it's inherent in Islam. Just people go through different phases in their culture. They started adopting a different culture. And sadly, the Muslims for a long time adapted that culture. I believe we're in the time where they're resurging because the internet has become a small community. Dialogue is happening again. We're talking again. We have to think like we used to, but we lived it. So we have so much groundwork done already that we're quickly, I believe, going to springboard. All right, guys, I'm going to end this now. Oh, boy. More super chats. Coach, do you reckon Socrates was a prophet? That's from Sir. It's possible that Plato's works were rewritten and rewritten and rewritten, and they put up a pagan element. Why? Because if you read Socrates carefully, he talks about there could only be one God. He says multiple gods, that's impossible. And when he's charged in the apology, he's charged for disbelieving in the gods. So then he's like affirming the gods, and so there's like pagan elements, and there's parts where he's like there can only be one God. I think it was rewritten. And the pagan writers were like, we can't have him say one God. Let's just like have him say one God a little bit, and then kind of make him recant it. And there's kind of a mixed bag. Is it one God? And all of a sudden he's talking about multiple gods. But generally that was when he was defending himself in court. So I think it's understandable because he was, being charged. Ultimately speaking, as his works are today, I would say no. However, as his works were originally, possibly yes. Marhaba, Coach, do you think it's worth it to enjoy a woman's company if you know it's going to end eventually? I can see her being a good wife because I know I won't marry her because of religious reasons. That's from Alexi Haddad. Well, that's a very deep question, my friend. You like the girl, she could be a good wife, but because of religious reasons, you might break it off. I'll tell you something. It's not crazy you're thinking. You might marry her, and those religious differences might never be reconciled and lead to a divorce and a broken home. I can't make a decision for you from where I'm sitting here, my friend, and obviously I don't think you're asking me to, but I would tell you it is a serious concern. It is a very serious concern. Okay, guys. Excuse me. Let's end it on a fun one. Please, somebody give me a fun one. How has Christianity spread so far around the world? That's some Sikhish Joey. Well, that's quite a question. One, they famously, Constantine the Great famously converts to Christianity. There's a lot of debate on how this actually happened. His mother was already Christian. A lot of scholars say, look, Christianity was going to take over Rome anyway because the poor were converting to Christianity. It was a wave of Christian converts. It was going to happen. Constantine the Great just basically bent with the wind. He's like, look, I can't stop them. Let me convert to their religion and make it legal. Because if not, they might have my head. Some historians paint it that way. Other historians say, no, he won a famous battle. He saw a cross in the air, and that's how the legend goes. And then he converted to Christianity because he had a vision of a cross before a battle, and the battle was won. And then, of course, later on, you had the Crusades, the Inquisitions, a darker period where if you didn't agree with their form of Christianity, they would kill you. Look it up. There's a lot of history there, guys, from all the groups in history. The group that's killed more people than any other group. If you know your history, like religious groups, okay, Genghis Khan is another level. From the Abrahamic faiths, the Hindu faiths, like all the modern faiths we have today, forget outside of Genghis Khan and the pagan world, okay, outside the pagan world, the monotheistic, I shouldn't say, I mean, Hinduism is not really Abrahamic, but like the modern religions you know today, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity is by far the highest, the most bloodiest wars. By far. Okay, now some people try to justify those. That's up to you guys. I'm not gonna make comment on that, but they killed a lot of people. If you know your history, it's undeniable. And you know, it was just they went through a phase, and their thinkers, their leaders, the people in power, in my opinion, were heavily corrupted. And I don't think it's inherent in Christianity to kill people. Absolutely not. But people take over the religion. They take over, you know, they're in power. And it's not a dig on Christianity at all. I'm not trying to make a dig on Christianity. However, people did use Christianity to annihilate those who were not like them. At secretly. Did I miss? Okay, guys, let's end it on the fun one. It is almost 2 a.m. I got to get to bed. Europe was a tinderbox for geographic reasons. That's from Ward. Oh my good. George Jenko asked Jordan Peterson how he prays. I couldn't help but remember you talking to Sahur about asking him. I wonder if Peterson prays or not. Check it out. That's from Hassan Haytham. Hassan, you're a gentleman and a scholar. I wonder if Peterson's prays. It would kind of fascinate me to know. Good night, Water. Thank you. I'm signing off shortly as well. I just want to end it on a fun one. Something a little lighter. Guys, I know I get asked questions on books. I've grandfathered that question. One day I'm going to put out a list. But I've done that question so many times that I just can't. I have to grandfather it for now. One day I'm going to make a list of the books that influenced me the most. And I'll publish it publicly for you guys. Favorite food? Bread maker. You must be new to this channel. I love steak. Steak. How many times have you read the Quran? a lot. So look, I reread large section. I don't read it left to right. I don't read it from beginning to end. I go from one section to the other, and I listen to it. When I say read, I really mean audiobook. I'm a big listener. I've said that many times on this channel. I don't know why I say read. It's just kind of weird to say that I listen to books. I just feel like it's kind of weird. Many times over. Every single day, some. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone through it. George Janko, asked him point blank. It's on his podcast. Peterson shocked me. All right, let's look at it, man. Let's see if I get shocked. George Janko Peterson. I'm sure if it shocked you, somebody cut it up. Peterson prayer. Let's see. How do you pray? Here we go. 23 minutes. Guys, I can't do 23 minutes. All right, let's play. Let's see what he says. Hopefully you guys are going to have a good audio.
How do you pray?
Are you asking for instructions or are you asking for me personally?
Both. I want to know how a doctor in your position, because I feel like not only are you good with your words.
First you confess.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's walk through that.
This conversation delves into the topic of prayer.
Said that asking even a question is a form of confession.
Right. Good. That's right. That's exactly why. Well, so
you have to be humble
in the podcast. If you're in a podcast and something comes to mind that you don't know, the question is a confession. Mm-hmm. The question is, I don't understand that. That's an admission of ignorance. Okay, so now in a conversation, if you admit ignorance, then in theory, an answer will be delivered to you. That's what you're hoping for, so it's the same thing psychologically or spiritually. Like once you admit that you have the insufficiency, and you do that on your knees, which means not only do you admit the insufficiency, but you admit that you admit the insufficiency, and you indicate simultaneously that you would like it rectified. Both of those require humility, right? It's like, I'm stupid, and I'd rather not be.
Wisdom's a gift.
Right. Okay. So now there's a sacrifice there. There's a sacrifice of pride, for example. There's also the willingness to sacrifice further, because you know this, everyone knows this. If you want to learn something, you might, and it might not be pleasant, and likely it won't be, because if there's something that you've really got wrong and you learn how wrong you are, that's going to hurt. Okay. So the prayer, confession, that's first. You have to have a problem. The next is, it's something like knock and the door will open.
Seek,
right?
Yeah.
Ask and you will receive. Seek and you will find. Right. So let's think about that practically.
But also, if you just want to pin that, a lot of people think that's just biblical, but I think you could use that for anything. So when people go, why do bad people have good things? I think because they were working in the realms of how God would want a man to work to thrive. So for example, you said a greedy man, right? He'll get the job done because he's seeking money, and he will find that money. So a lot of people would rather seek money than God. And to me, it's pointless to have. I'm so sorry. Why is this?
Well, and that also might be a lot better than seeking nothing.
Exactly. But also, here's another thing that it's all perspective. If you zoom out, everything besides God to me is nothing, because unless your deity is endless and eternally, like the space that continues. Like, for example, like your opinion regardless of how I see your stature is so much higher than mine, but at the end of the day, you will be forgotten about, and everything that you've done will turn into dirt.
Well, some of it, developing that, some of that's a matter of definition. It's, in a sense, it's like, why would you not turn your attention always to what is highest? Like, why would you do that?
It's
foolish. Well, yeah, I know, but it's just... That's the same problem again, is that if you have...
Okay, let me give you guys my comment. have to disagree with him. I don't think he gets what prayer is. I don't think he gets it. He's like, you have to start with a question. Well, that's a position of humility. You got to go down on your knees. You got to humble yourself. I get it. Look, I'm not saying there's any wrong way to pray. I'm not saying there's a wrong way to pray. I'm just saying that I think as he develops his spiritual side, he can go further than that, much further. There's a lot further than that. That's just like beginner level. Oh, I get down on my knees and I have to be humble and I pray. That's so true. That's so true. But that's a bit shallow, superficial. Prayer is annihilation of everything except God. When you pray, when human beings pray, they're supposed to throw out everything, every thought, all of existence except God. There's nothing else that exists. Even my own self, I forgot I exist. Then you're really in a special place. When a human being forgets he has a human body, he forgets he even exists. Okay, guys, hold on. The moderator just went. Is the moderator running amok? I don't know. I think he's doing a good job, actually. Oh, he's just removing a spammer. Guys, think about this. Okay, I'm gonna explain to you what prayer is. Okay. Did you ever remember when you fall in love? You fall in love with a girl, and she's so wonderful, and you look at her, and she looks at you, and you have those first 2-3 years that are so magical. You see no faults in her, she sees no faults in you, and you have that puppy love stage, and you look into her eyes. And when you look into her eyes, she's looking back at you, and you're like, wow, the world is so great. The world is so great. Oh, life is so good. I'm happy every day, and just life is so good. There's nothing wrong in the world. Like, everything is so good. Every day I open the door, birds are singing. I hear the birds singing every day. Why? You have this beautiful relationship where you love her, she loves you, and you can't stop. You got to spend every minute you can with her. You got to spend every minute you can with her, and you're always like, you're just going to finish work and you're going to race home and you guys are going to spend time together. It doesn't matter if you're cooking a meal at home or you're going out or whatever. As long as you're together, it's perfect. Life is so good. Oh, as long as we're together, we can't spend a second apart from each other more than we have to. Prayer, if done correctly, is higher than this. Higher. It's a higher human experience. Because that's just what I described to you as love. Worship is higher. Now, the thing is, I feel like Jordan, he would never say worship because for him, that's like putting God higher than him. And I think he's the kind of guy, well, you know, like God has got to kind of be like on my level. God has got to kind of be like my friend. I think that's the kind of way he approaches it. For some reason, hearing him talk, I think that's how he approaches it. Now, he said you have to go on your knees and be humble. I get that, but I just don't, from all the things he said in the past, I don't know, for some reason, I feel like there's still like I'm approaching God as an intellectual. Like I'm so intelligent, I can understand these complex things, and I have a higher reach. I have a VIP pass to God, kind of, which I think is completely untrue. Like any human being, every human being has access to God. To find God, to have a prayer, to have a religious experience, you have to have forsaken everybody else. Because think about that thought experiment I was telling you, where you love that girl and she loves you, and you're in that puppy love stage, and everything is so perfect and it's magical, and I love her and she loves me, and life is so good. Imagine if that girl that you love so much saw you with another girl? Whoa, 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 there's going to be trouble in paradise. That perfect, I see you, you see me, I care about you, you care about me, I can't spend another minute without you. All that crazy puppy love is gone. All of a sudden, pew, you just sent, she's in hell now. She was in this happy place and now she's in the worst place. Now she's in the most unhappy place. You just flipped it on 180 on her. She's tormented now. It's kind of like that. When you do prayer, if you reach a point where there's nothing, you're not thinking about your job, you're not thinking about your money, you're not thinking about your wife, you're not thinking about your kids, you're not thinking about what's God going to give me. Is this going to give me a better life? You're not thinking about you. So much so that you forget you exist. This is what Muslims call fana, annihilation. If a human being were to reach annihilation, he would be certain God exists. He would be certain. He wouldn't even worry about logical explanations anymore. He wouldn't be listening to any argument. No argument would shake his faith. No argument at all. He would have this experience like a person has when they meet the first person they love and they have a puppy love, etc. Like they just can't think of anything else and it's just there, and it's like the whole day is catered to being together. I'm going to leave you guys with a little Sufi story, and then I'm going to cut it. Okay, it'll be the end. It'll be a fun way to end the podcast. Once upon a time, a man knocked on God's door. He knocks on God's door. And God says to him, "Who is it?" And the man replies, "It's me." And God tells the man, "There is no room for me here." God sends him on his way. He rejects him. The man saddened, climbs up on his camel. He's an Arab guy. Of course, Sufi's going to put him on a camel. He's walking away. He's sad. He's been rejected. And then he realizes, wait a second. I just realized my mistake. He runs back and he knocks on the door again. He knocks on the door. God says, "Who is it?" And the man replies, "There's only you." And God opens the door. That, my friends, is what prayer is. Annihilation. This is the most important thing of all. With that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you had a great time. I'm sorry for the 10 minutes of silence. Maybe it was fitting since I've done so many episodes that I screw up once every 100th episode. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you.